Yeah. Yeah, two a days. I mean, I'll play again. But I be telling myself every day I want to go out to Wyoming. It's just making the trek whenever, like I said, I got a pickleball court right outside here that people are playing at and they're good competition. But I want to play with you. I want to see how y'all play too.
Yeah, man. Just you ought to just look. They out there almost every day, so you just had to. Although I think when they played Sunday, they played out at College Station, that
Mm.
new spot in North College Hill, I think. So
They said something
sometimes
about
they move around.
something in Price Hill indoor too, something like that. I've been following the page. That's the only reason I
Mhm.
interested in
Yeah,
playing.
and some people just play depending on their location. You know what I'm saying? It's like you might have 10 or 11 in one spot, 7 or 8 in another spot.
You
I
okay?
think I think people kind of sometimes do what's closest.
How you doing, Rosemary?
That's a good
Hi. I'm all
thing,
right. I'm
Rosemary.
good. I'm like trying to modify. I'm in Holloway House today, so I'm used to like being at home, locking in. So like I'm trying to get my cameras together. But I'm good. How are you fellas?
Doing
Hey, life is good. No
We're
complaints.
just talking about pickleball. Yeah, I mean, is it? Just talking about a little pickleball.
I don't know. I don't play. So I don't even know what it is. All of a sudden I kept hearing about it, but I don't play.
And I took a tour to Cincinnati Public Radio too. You ever been over there, Kev? The new spot, the new location,
What is that, Terry? I missed the first
the
part of what you said.
Cincinnati Public Radio, the new places they went.
Oh yeah, yeah. We held our debate for the Butler County Commissioners back in May at their new headquarters. It's nice,
Very nice,
very
very
nice.
nice. That recording studio, man. I went in that recording studio and was like unreal,
Hmm.
unreal. And the fact that it's open to the public too. There's a podcasting studio that's open to the public. There's a lot of good resources over there. I told them they should start streaming our podcasts on there. You know,
Hmm.
public
Yeah,
radio.
yeah.
It's relevant to the city. Just
I
as
would say very relevant to the
just
city.
as relevant as the not to knock. I think Cincinnati Edition's a great programming, but I mean we're just as relevant and we get just as much traction and get just as many views and just as much. I mean, but I was talking to somebody who was in sales was trying to, like show me other things. They weren't trying to talk about the content creation side of it. They did show. I did get a contact for somebody that we could contact.
Okay. Yeah, Cincinnati Lucy May does a good job with Cincinnati Edition. Different approach, kind of different, format than what we do, but that's okay. I mean, you guys, I think, you want to have lots of different entry points for people to get in on the conversation, and whether it's straight interviews or debates or whatever. I think all of it is good for
You
the.
on the buzz lately too, man. I've been listening in, and you've been doing good work, man. Filling in for Rico when he's been doing his thing.
Yeah, I was telling my wife yesterday that I'm starting to enjoy that. Not that I haven't always, but it's like the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, obviously, and the more you kind of prep for, learn how to prep for the shows and all of that type thing. So yeah, it's infrequent enough that you look forward to it when you get the opportunity to do it.
What's the Holloway House, Rosemary?
You said what is the Holloway House?
Yes.
It's our new facility. What's our new building? On the corner of Reading Road and Lenox. And so in here we provide housing for young parents under the age of 18
I love the daughter.
for up to 24 months. Right now, I'm sitting in our finance and computer lab. And so, like the same thing, like we have educational programming here. Cincinnati Zoo did like a whole
All right,
garden
I'll be waiting.
and have a program and things like that for young parents under the age of 18. And then certain points, we support people who were teen parents because a lot of times that's where they got stuck in their life and wasn't able to move past that point. Those are the people that you normally see, you know, facing that generational poverty and things such as that. So when we moved in our new facility, we kind of hit that point. But it's located in North Avondale. Only been open a year. The new building. So hope y'all come visit. We having an event in August. So trying to get people to the building support. It took us 3 years to get this open because a lot of people didn't want to see it in this specific community. If we was one street over in actual South Avondale, I don't think that it would have been so much of a lift to get the doors open. But we're here. And it's open, and we got a full house of young mothers and their babies, and so it's been some walk. I'm walking into my 10th year with Rosemary's Babies Company, and so yeah, like 10 years of impact, and I don't know what it's gonna look like 10 years forward, but you know, it's been a journey.
All right, well, everybody. Well, Phil's gonna be a bit late. He said about 1:30, but we don't have to wait for him. We can go ahead and get things started. And hello to everybody in the chat. Appreciate you for being here. Hey, Ross, Steban, good to see you. Hey, Carolyn and
Which
Terry.
one is hard ankles?
And Tony. You said which one is what?
Hard ankles. Who is hard?
Hard ankles?
That's
I don't know.
Hard ankles is what they used to call. We used to call dudes that they used to. It's a slang term for fellas, for like dude, like look at them hard ankles over there. Hard ankles in the club, standing around, dudes standing around, hard ankles. It was a kind of like a greetings to Rosemary and what up to the rest of the fellas. This is pretty much.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. Well, thanks for.
I'm gonna lose my card because I don't speak slang. I don't lost my card.
All right, everybody's looking good, sounding good. All right, we can go ahead and get started. All right. This is doing something weird, but okay. All right. All right, put everybody backstage and we'll get started. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. Yeah, I think we're all back here. Good to see everybody. Welcome back to Hot Mic Cincy. Nate Ivy with you. And we got a great crew, great panel for you today. Phil Heimlich is supposed to join us, and I don't know, about 1:30 or so. Until then, you got us. I want to say what's up to Rosemary. How you doing, Rosemary? Thanks for coming back.
Good. Thank you. It's different to be on here on a Tuesday. I get to kick it with Terrace today. Don't yell at me. Don't yell at me like some people that jump on here. But thanks for having me.
All right. Speaking of Terrace, good to see you.
Good to see you. Great being here. There's a highlight of my week. I want to say Fanon Rucker's in the chat. Peace and blessings. And I will listen to your 4th of July soliloquy or whatever your the commentary that you put out. Excellently done. Well done commentary, man. I was like, I'm on a panel with that dude, man. Good stuff, Fanon.
All right, great. Right. I had to see it, but I'm sure it's great. We got the voice of reason with us, Kevin Aldridge. How you doing, sir? Can't hear you.
I had myself muted because I was listening to some of the prep content. I was just saying, hats off to the crew. Good to see everybody. Good to see everybody in the chat. Appreciate y'all joining us. You could have be spending the next couple hours anywhere, but you're here with us. Glad to be here.
Ross writes, Phil in boxing lesson. Yes, he is. He's finishing up his boxing lessons. His hand boxing. Kim writes, good afternoon. Good to see you. Janice writes, good afternoon. Sierra writes, happy Tuesday. Tony writes, hey, Rosemary, I came up with some Oglesby around Walnut Hills in the late 80s. Any relatives of yours?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'm going to say about that.
I thought you were going to say, all right. That writes, good Tuesday. Kim writes, talking to someone else. David writes, hopefully we'll have a common sense audience. The low vibration attention seekers are exhausting. Okay. Put a name on it, David, so we know who you're talking about. LaDonna's here. Good to see you. Vanita's here. Yeah, I see Fanon. Good to see you, Fanon. Good to see you. Erica Hummins. Good to see you, Erica. Thanks, everybody. David Herring. Good to see you. Kevin did an outstanding job on the Lincoln Ware show.
Yes, he did.
Absolutely. Good to hear. Pamela writes, good afternoon, Nathan and crew checking in from North Avondale. All right. Beautiful North Avondale. City on the move. Let's get straight into it. I mean, it's like I don't even know where to start, but let's just start with this. So we had D-Ray McKesson on a couple weeks back, and since then, his team has put out a list of recommendations for the city of Cincinnati. And at the top, well, there's lots of them, but what they also focused on was this idea of low-level crimes. And what they're suggesting for the city of Cincinnati in an effort to stop basically racial profiling in police stops, they're saying that low-level stuff like jaywalking, the small things, they're saying y'all should let that go. Loitering, spitting in public, things like that. Now, FOP President Ken Colbert is quoted as saying that ending the enforcement of low-level crimes contradicts residents' priorities. I want to throw it to the crew. What do you think? Is that a recommendation that you think is a good idea for the city of Cincinnati? Or do you agree with Ken Colbert that the public doesn't really want to see that? What the public wants, I guess I'm speaking for Ken a little bit, is they want to see police cracking down on the small things so they don't turn into big things, right? Isn't that the rationale? But what do you think?
Well, I think it's what type of small things you're talking about. So, for example, if I'm a business owner and I've got some people, quote unquote, loitering or hanging out in front of my shop, and I feel like that's discouraging other people from coming in, that might be something that I might want police to address, right? Get people off my stoop because you're messing with my business. That's understandable. I don't necessarily know that has to be a citation. I think that can be one of those things where it's like, hey, move along. This is at the request of the business owner. That's understandable. Spitting, jaywalking, that type of stuff. I mean, again, to borrow a line from our former Hamilton County prosecutor, Joe Dieters, I think those are chicken shit stops, uses of police enforcement that are completely, totally unnecessary and a waste of everybody's time. I just walked the lunch downtown to Fountain Square from our office. I jaywalk, about 10 or 15 other people jaywalk. It's a common occurrence. No traffic is coming in from any direction. you're not waiting on that crosswalk signal to cross the street. Nobody does it. White, black, whatever. And I think what D-Ray's point is that black people are stopped at a higher rate for those types of small level offenses than white folks are. I don't care what color you are. You shouldn't be stopped for that, right? Like, and I've seen people do it in front of Cincinnati police officers that are floating around Fountain Square and nobody gets stopped. So I think if you are going to enforce these low level things, then do it across the board. Don't be selective about who you stop and who you enforce with it. But I think that type of stuff, I didn't even know spitting in public was against the law. I mean, I do that too. So I guess I'm guilty of. I guess I'm admitting to my guilt to plenty of city civil citations every day because I spit in public, I jaywalk, and I would be super upset if I ever got cited or pulled over from something so small. That does nothing to make the community safer.
But it's the law.
It shouldn't be. It should not be a law. If that's a law, that's a ridiculous law, and I don't know who put that on the books or who approved it because everybody does it. Everybody does it.
So just because everybody does it, does it mean that it's right? I mean,
what's wrong with spitting on the ground in public?
No, but I'm saying now, if you spit on the ground and you're a black man, you spit on the ground in front of a white person, they can consider that a hate crime if that person perceives that you tried to spit on them, even if you didn't. So I think that is just dependent on perspective, and it might lead too much into individualized judgment. But I do think that it has to be on a certain basis of, based off each individual's perception of if they're going to cite this person. I mean, I jaywalked once, right, at a jazz festival years ago. And there was a group of cops that didn't look like me. And I actually was about to get a ticket. However, another group of cops that, because somebody was there, they kind of knew who I was, that the cops were like, hey, let her go. She jaywalked along other people. I was the one to stop though. So when the cop was like, hey, I stopped because I followed the law. Other people was like, you should have just kept on going. I think that when we look at low level offenses, the same thing goes with people don't understand you can get a ticket for being 1 mile over the speed limit. And they're like, no, you can't. Because again, when we do these generalizations that they're not laws and that you can't get tickets for it, when you do, it's like, oh, they're racist, they're offensive. So again, I think that it's on a case-by-case basis. And I'm glad to see that we're pulling in somebody else into the conversation to be able to help take away some of these generalizations of when we'll ticket, when we'll cite, when we'll just give a pass.
From what I read, it was a 6-to-1 stop ratio from black to white, 6-to-1. So that to me, we don't really have to go into rocket science detail on what that means. The police department is an arm of white supremacy, in my opinion. Sometimes it's used, not all the time, but I believe in justice and but low-level crimes, especially when it's 6-to-1 differential, just fuels the criminal justice complex system, and so to speak. So if you're getting black and brown people who look like us involved in petty crime, keeping them going back and forth to court, keeping the lawyers paid, keeping the public defenders who are going back and public defending, giving them cases to try while they're paying back their student, like going on. It's a system, man. So if we know we're being targeted, I mean, this is just more evidence, but then we'll have people who want to defend it because they're a part of that system as well, but this is just a clear, a call out to what we already know. But there's going to be people who are going to call and say it's flawed. But 6-to-1, 6-to-1, 2-to-1, 2-to-1 is not 6-to-1 stop ratio. So I mean that just says a lot.
Mm-hmm. Steve writes that window tinting is one of the low-level crimes they suggested not to be enforced. What do you think about not enforcing tinted windows? Is that just one of those laws that, like, when the officer feels like doing something about it and feels like using it as a rationality stop you? Or do you think there's something behind that?
Yeah, I think that was abused. Like my brother, who is like one of the squarest people ever, He has a sports car, and he gets pulled over a lot because of his window tinting, but only in certain communities. Like right now, lives in Anderson, and he drives through Batavia and Amelia, those kind of things, and those kind of places, and he gets pulled over. And once they run his tags, they realize he's never had a ticket, never been in an accident, and he's let go with like, hey, your tint is dark. But I mean, if he, what is he supposed to do? Go change it? He went to the dealer. That's the tint they put on there. I think that's one of those laws that we might need to take off the books.
I mean, and look, I get it. Police will make the argument of, hey, if tinted windows, if we can't see inside the car, that presents a particular danger, to the officer approaching a car and he can't see inside. That's reasonable, right? But to get to, again, if you're gonna have these laws and you're gonna say enforce them, then enforce them across the board. Don't just enforce them in certain neighborhoods, because window tinting is not just something that African Americans do. But if African Americans are getting pulled over 6 times more than white people when they have tinted cars, tinted windows, that says something. If you don't want tint on cars, then pass a law that says auto dealers can't make or produce tinted windows. Don't come up with selective local laws or state laws. Hey, let's just make window tint illegal. Because if police officers everywhere are saying it's a danger to them, then why are we allowing auto manufacturers to give you the option to produce window tinting on your automobiles if it's going to be a low-level illegal crime? This is what I'm saying about the selective enforcement of these low-level crimes, some of which make sense. But if you're going to have them on the books and enforce them on everybody. Enforce jaywalking on everybody. Enforce spitting in public on everybody. Enforce tinted windows on everybody. And the reason why I know the public doesn't want this, because if they started enforcing these low-level crimes across the board and in every neighborhood and doing that, people would rise up against it and say, this is not the type of thing that we want, and we don't feel like it makes us safer.
But I think Hankover is wrong.
Yeah.
You think he's wrong in turn? He said, at least the quote said, attributed to him, basically reads like he feels like the public wants the police to go after low-level crimes to stop the big crimes. You're saying you think he's wrong?
I'm saying yes. I'm saying if people are saying that, they're saying that because they're not subjected to it. I guarantee you, if they were subjected to it, if they started rolling out in Indian Hill and in some of these neighborhoods, checking people who got tinted windows and citing them, or watching people who are crossing the street not in a crosswalk in every neighborhood. I'm telling you, this is stuff that happens every day. And part of the reason why you're not enforcing it across the board like that is because police got bigger fish to fry. They got more important things to do than checking people for jaywalking and window tint and all this low-level stuff. But it's used as a tactic in certain neighborhoods to get certain types of people, and it's reflected in that. So, of course, if the police are never in my neighborhood shaking me down for jaywalking or tinted windows, I'll be like, yeah, go after that. That's not a problem here. It is. They just not enforcing it in your neighborhood.
But I also think, go ahead. But I also think too, you can't pull somebody over for tinted windows and then claim that, and I think that's where the bias kind of lies. You have this fear of walking up on the car because there's a weapon in there, but you pulled them over for tinted windows. No different than if there's officers in the hood and you walking up to somebody that might make, again, black people in a group, and the black people together are called a gang, whereas white people together on the street are called a group. So you're walking up on a gang about spitting or hawking on the curb, but you're walking up with a mindset of, okay, when I go tell them to stop spitting, there's going to be confrontation. So again, that officer, I think we still have to rely on that officer's bias. And I think that just comes with education. You can't pick a fight or walk up on this person. You ain't supposed to be doing that. There's still a way so that you don't get these negative reactions and things such as that. So like I said, even if you're pulling somebody over and they had this tinted window, you can't walk up with your gun out because, with the reflection of, or with the thought process that this person has a gun and they might kill me, when you pull them over for a tinted window, which is one infraction, so I just think that this bias thing, I think everybody has bias to a point, and I don't care every human has bias. And so we have to be considerate, especially our law enforcement, of when we need to taper that in order to implement the law or control people when we're implementing the law, to approach people with these infractions. So I think that they just need more education and they need more discernment in their temperament as well, when they're doing these stops and things such as that. But I think the tinted window, I just think that it should be a warning if it's overly dark. But again, that's still up to the officer, because they don't have some kind of detector that shows the darkness of your windows. So again, it's up to perception. And I think before they pull you over, they're running your tags, which we've already found that that's illegal to do.
All right, let's move on. I've been reading that the Ohio governor's race is at a deadlock. There was a recent poll that came out. Vivek Ramaswamy is the Republican candidate, and Dr. Amy Acton is the Democrat candidate. And Ohio is red, right? This is a red state. And it's kind of amazing that it's even that close at this point, considering that Vivek has the endorsement of Donald Trump, who is all powerful when it comes to Republican political spaces at this point. Whom do you think is going to win, and who do you think might be better for Ohio, as much as you know about their policies or just your general thoughts?
Not being from Ohio, I'd like to go first because I'm not from there. So then I'll give you Vivek being Indian is going to hurt them in the Republican Party, because they're, especially the white evangelical vote is they're want everybody to be white Christians, and that's what they want to lead them. They can't see anything other than that. So that Republican Party is going to split. Also, another thing is there is Republican Party fatigue right now, just like there's, people are tired of the Republican Party. Even people within the side of the Republican parties tired of the Republican Party. So Amy Acton is going to benefit from that if she runs a correct type of race. If she goes after those type of voters and say, she doesn't have to do much. Just go away from the pro-Trump MAGA rhetoric and get back to America first. If she would just start taking that, because two things are going to hurt Vivek: his ethnicity and who he chooses to worship, because they already put him in the corner at one of these rallies. They had him in the corner and they were like, how can we, one of these white national Christian nationalists asked him, we don't serve same God. How can we put our trust in you when you pray to, you have a Hindu God and we pray to the most, the white. And Vivek had a very articulate answer, but it still wasn't good enough when it boils down to it. It was like, nah, man, he ain't a blood washed believer. So that, and the fact that people are not happy about the Republican Party right now, and there's fatigue, gives Amy Acton, in my opinion, the edge. Who knows what Trump's going to do to help his buddy? Who we all know what Elon and all the other rich Peter Thiels, all those people are going to be funneling that money into there. So that's going to be another factor. So that's my opinion from the outside looking in on Kentucky side of it.
I think Acton has a really good shot at winning. I think a lot of what Terry said is accurate. And I said this, if you recall, I said this back, I think it was last season when we first started talking about this governor's race. I don't understand why Dave Yost dropped out of the race, because I felt like if Dave Yost had wanted to make an ugly primary out of it in the Republican primary, he certainly could have, for all of the reasons that Terrence just outlined. That Republicans in Ohio would have gone with a cisgender white man, who's been a part of the establishment, and Dave Yost over Ramaswamy, regardless of the Trump endorsement, for all of the reasons that Terrence just outlined. But I don't know what they offered him, what they gave him to go ahead and step aside and just let Ramaswamy take it. But whatever it was, he agreed to it, he took it, and he moved on. But I think the thing that we forget is that Ohio for a long time was considered to be purple. Like now we regard it as deep red in the era of Trump. And I still think Ohio is purple. I think what has happened to Ohio is Democrats lost some edge to the working class, right? Because there were many working class Ohioans who kind of felt like the Democrats in their messaging kind of, under Biden and all of that kind of moved away from them. And so they bought into Trump's businessman, jobs, economic message, which I think resonated with more of the blue collar workers in Ohio. His promises to bring back, manufacturing and all of that stuff kind of, I think, played into a lot of working class Ohioans. And so with Trump's popularity being down, all of the issues with Ramaswamy and his religious beliefs and skin color, I think that opens a door for Amy Acton to win. It opens the door wide enough for her to slip through. But the Democrats are going to have to spend some money. They are going to have to spend some money if they want to win this governor's race. They can't keep their hands in the pocket and trying to be cheap and not spend any money if they want to win this governor's race. They're going to have to pour the DNC is going to have to put some money behind Amy Acton because it's going to happen on the Republican side. They already running endless commercials on this woman right now, and it's only going to get worse as we get closer to November. So if the Democrats want to win a gettable race, they're going to have to put some money behind it. And there's no other way about it. The other thing, I think Acton needs to spend more time here. She's got to run up the numbers in the urban areas. She's spending a lot of time in Cleveland and Columbus and in those areas, but she needs to be in Cincinnati and in Southwest Ohio way more than she has been. I think I've only seen her a couple of times. Maybe that's part of her campaign strategy as we get closer to spend more time here. But she needs to be in Cincinnati and Hamilton County more, trying to make sure she runs up the numbers here.
Yeah, so I think a lot of the things that you both said are true. I was running and I got the opportunity to meet Vivek Ramaswamy on multiple occasions and be in rooms when he had to address the questions about his religion, nationality, being an anchor baby. I got to have large scale discussions with him about education and his path to get from where he was born in locally and to where he is now. And so I think one of the bigger pictures that we continue to miss is the difference between, are we going to choose, are they going to vote for race, or are they going to vote because there's racial bias and there's sexuality bias. So, there has never been a woman governor to ever win. So there's never been a woman governor to ever win. And so, those are things that we don't want to see. Like, there are a lot of men that are like, no, a woman can't lead. And so when you talk about all these commercials that are running, they're attacking her ability to stay grounded in her authority as a leader and her leader as a woman. So while, yeah, he might be Indian and he might be Hindu, will they overlook that and put him in office, or put this woman in office? And I just think that being that we are still purple, it's challenging. But some of the things that Vivek has done is he hit all 88 counties. Vivek is not afraid, whether he answers the questions or not, he responds to the questions. I think that he's younger, he's one of these younger guys. So he's bringing around a group of younger individuals, which is bringing forth a lot of conservative young Republicans that we haven't been seeing. He has a huge Charlie Kirk following. So those people are voting for him. And let's not forget, he's a billionaire. You can't be broke and be governor of Ohio. And we've never seen that, like a broke governor, or a governor that wasn't that was like cash poor, that didn't have all of the means that Vivek Ramaswamy has. He also ran for president, so he's popular. When he has these events, I mean, the number of Republicans are wrapped around the corner for autographs and photos, and he puts on a show. So Amy Acton has a lot of work to do, especially in these small communities in rural Ohio, like, your Clinton counties and your, some of those areas where I personally didn't want to go in, and the men that live there don't want to see a woman in charge, where he is constantly insulted about being an Indian or whatnot. There are more people that are supporting him than that are against him. And he's raised and contributed a boatload of his own money in order to win this race.
Yeah. I think one of the things Acton needs to seize on, which I think actually, Rosemary talked about it as a positive. I actually think it's a negative for Ramaswamy in places like Ohio. The billionaire thing, I think if I was Amy Acton, I wouldn't be afraid to use that against him, because Ohio is not a billionaire state. You're in the Rust Belt in middle America. Most people are working class, struggling, working stiffs, trying to make ends meet, struggling with gas prices. And here you got an aloof billionaire taking private jets to Paris over the 4th of July weekend. That is right to rake him over the coals in Ohio and show how out of touch he is with the common man, right? Ramaswamy can't pull that off in the same way that Donald Trump has been able to pull the wool over people's eyes. Look, there's only so many things that conservative, Republican, white voters are going to overlook in terms of being willing to vote for you. Particularly if you are a let's just say a darker skinned person who has money. You know what I'm saying? That don't go over well in poor rural areas where you rolling up in your whatever you driving and they struggling to make ends meet. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it real.
I mean, when he campaigns, he doesn't campaign like that. It's
all they know. He don't campaign, but they know.
But there are also these people, but you got to think a lot of the Trump, and I'm not saying he's going to win neither here nor there, but you have to look at the tradition of Ohio too. And there has never been a governor that was of low means. I mean, Mike DeWine is a billionaire, close enough to it. He's 400 million strong. And so, and Vivek, again, he uses that anchor baby, dad and mom having to come from overseas. I mean, this man is a storyteller, and Amy Acton needs to build on her storytelling, because a lot of these people are also holding over her head the COVID crisis, these kids not being educated because they were taken out of schools, and that's why we need to put more money into private education. So again, they're using some of the things because she's been here and lived here, and they have these proofs. And while Vivek did move his companies to Texas and he doesn't necessarily live here, et cetera, they're using these primary things, and it didn't help when it came out like that she had been arrested. I mean, it didn't help my record when I had to go through that stuff, but they will use that throughout her entire campaign. So she needs a strong she needs a strong alliance with people that can help her to figure out the correct marketing to get these independents. Because what's going on is she doesn't have to worry about Democrats that will always vote Democrat, no different than Republicans, no matter what, that will vote Republican. It is an increase in independents in Ohio that are sitting on both of those tickets that may vote either or. And so she has to be able to speak to those independents that are kind of like me. I'm not necessarily poor, but I'm also not necessarily rich. I'm also a business owner. Does she understand business? Will she help nonprofits? How does she feel about education? If COVID hits again, will she take these kids? Will she make the same choices? And she has to be prepared to answer those questions, and she's just not answering them. And she has the endorsement, whether Mike DeWine endorsed Ramaswamy or not, he still voices favorably on behalf of Amy Acton. So a Trump endorsement really weighs nothing to a Mike DeWine endorsement.
Yeah, hold on for a second, Terrence, and then I'll let you get in on that, because you're 100% right. She needs to use that more. Like, if I'm her, I don't care if you bring up COVID, bring it up, and remind people that when Mike DeWine was governor, he was, if not one of the most popular governors in the United States during COVID, based on the way that he was handling it and the decisions that were made. See, people part of the problem with politics is people get forgetful. Like we're 4 or 5 years now away from COVID. We're back to life as normal now. People forget what it was like then, how scared people were, what everything was. And Mike DeWine was one of the most popular governors in the country for how he handled COVID, right? And what has Mike DeWine said? As Rosemary said, he's spoken favorably against what his Republican colleagues have said about how Amy Acton had it. So I would have every commercial that I would have coming out, or my messaging would be, hey, one of the most popular governors in the country during COVID, who is a Republican, by the way, said I did a great job and is still continuing to say that. So try to use COVID against me, right? I'm going to remind people of what it was really like back then and how we handled it. And people, hindsight is always 2020. They took your kids out of school and all of that. What we forget is there were more people who were in favor of those types of things back then than were against it, because everybody was concerned about this disease that we didn't know much or anything about. And then as we learn more about it and learn how to prevent it more, people now want to go back and have a revisionist look at that now and be critical, when the point was we were making, DeWine and Acton were making the best decisions they could with the information they had on hand, and the majority of Americans and Ohioans were good with it.
Well, why don't you give her that speech so she can drop it in a video?
Hey, listen,
maybe she'll get some of these people to back her, but again, like, this man is drawing crowds. And if you look at the primary, they showed up in numbers in these Ohio areas and these Ohio townships to vote for him, because he was actually in their townships and shook their hands. And so she'll need a lot of money in order to touch all of those touch points by November. She's going to have to touch all of those touch points, whether the Republicans live there or Democrats. She needs to touch everybody, because again, I think that everybody is kind of riding that middle line. Not your far right and your far left, but they're riding that middle line. I don't know what I'm going to do at this moment, but they're looking at their lifestyles and they're saying which one is going to make better decisions. And I think that's from the congressional races to your local races, all the way to your governor race. She's got a lot on her hands, and I just don't think it's going to be an easy win for her.
With Amy Acton, I agree with what Rosemary and Kevin both said about the independent voters. And Amy Acton has more in common with the independent voters out there than Vivek Ramaswamy does. And I'll say for demographic reasons, because there's more white women out there who vote, and who is a huge demographic. Because when we were running campaigns and I was going after black male votes in the Republican Party, there was specific demographic and people who went after women vote, specifically soccer mom votes, because those are the people who sway the votes. So if Amy Acton could use that as an advantage to her and say, hey, yeah, I was drinking when I was taking drugs. What soccer mom hasn't done that? She can use all these things to her advantage, and to be able to touch a demographic that Vivek will never be able to touch, because he just doesn't have the appeal. There's not that many Indian, Hindu guys in the Republican Party that will be able to save him. That's where I think he's very vulnerable. So he's going to have to spend, $20-30 million, which it's going to be nothing to him. But I agree. The Democrats are going to have to keep up with the spending and messaging, and not be afraid of that messaging. Because that's what I think. The Democrats are going to be too scared and be playing defense, when they should just be saying, oh yeah, that's true. Now what? But that's just the politics we're in.
Yeah,
I definitely think
to Rosemary's point, it's not going to be an easy win. It's not going to be an easy win, if a win at all, for Acton. Like the race is as close. I think the race is as close as the polls indicate that it is. And that I think that is primarily because, again, Trump's declining popularity and the challenges that Ramaswamy have within the party. As I said, it opens the door. It doesn't guarantee Acton anything. You got to crack. Now you got to be aggressive, as everybody said, in how you go about getting through that door. Acton has, I don't agree in leaning in heavily into the woman thing. And here's why. Is because she doesn't need to draw attention to that. like in this day and time, promoting the oldest first woman governor and all of that, that does not play into your favor in collecting votes. What she needs to show is a level of leadership and competency that people can trust. Doesn't matter whether she's a woman or not. And I would stay as far away from that kind of messaging as you can, because that's what Ramaswamy and the conservatives are hoping for, that you'll make it into an identity politics type thing. So she doesn't need to do that. People can see. You don't need to be reminded that Amy Acton is a woman. You can look at her and tell that she's a woman. What she has to show is that she can be governor of Ohio, and that's where her focus needs to be.
That's why the Democrats, in my opinion, always get beat, because they're always on the defense. Always on the defense. Instead of taking, like when Eminem was in that rap battle and he told Lil Buddy everything that he was about to say to him to get him off. Like, now that's over with. Now what you got? Instead of the Democrats always being like, oh, no, let's not touch these subjects. Let's tell some, if they want to win, let's tell some, let's talk to these people. Let's talk to women voters. Amy Acton is a woman. She doesn't have to say, I could be the first woman governor. She could speak common sense to women in her demographic the way that Vivek Ramaswamy will never be able to talk to her. And there's more women out there who vote in Ohio than there are Hindu Indian males. So that could flip the scale when it comes to the independent vote. Those people who are sitting in the middle, not the far right, not the far left, who you're going to get. The people right in the middle. So yeah, they'll talk to those people like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I still think even with that, she can push towards that. I mean, even in my race, there was a lady that was running, Holly, and a lot of times, I won't quote her verbatim because I don't like the confusion or the chaos, but she kind of spoke on within the Republican Party, there was an assumption that because she was a woman, that more women would vote for her because they will understand she was a wife, she was a house mom, she was all these things. But you also have to understand too, some of these 2-parent households in upper middle class or upper class, they also look at it that a man should lead. So she has to be very cautious in what she's the stories and how she's selling that as well, because there are a lot of women that still believe that a woman has her place and that men should be leading our government. And so, I just think that, again, she needs to, if even to be, the polls, we all know that polls, depending on which one you look at, it's going to tell a story. They had everybody believing Kamala was going to win. And then what happened? These polls, they're credible, but not, and so I just think that she, like I said, she has a battle. I think that Vivek Ramaswamy is further ahead than people know because of the numbers that turned out in the primary and the number of people that show up when this man says, I'm going to be there. People are wrapped around the corner. And while there are a lot of women that vote, he does bring out young people under the age of 40. And he brings out those older people that just want to meet him because they admire this little Indian boy. Right now, while there is problems within the Republican Party and it's being shifted, there's like 3 different Republican parties. But within that, I do think too, they're still trying to push that they're this tent party that accepts everybody. And whether that's believable or not, they're saying they're the tent party. Dave Yost did step down because they thought, the upper Ohio Republican Party, how the machine said Vivek was the choice. And sometimes you have to move aside if you don't want to fight the machine. The machine, and there is a machine on the Democratic side, and there's a machine on the Republican side as well, because a lot of contenders dropped out in the Democratic side that might have been a more viable candidate than Amy Acton as well.
Yeah, Acton is one of the things that she doesn't have. Look, Ramaswamy is, whatever you think about him, he's a gifted speaker and has a type of charisma and ability to deliver stories that Acton just doesn't have because she's not a politician, right? Like Ramaswamy has had some experience running for the presidency, different things like that. Amy Acton is a doctor. She was in an agency role when she was in government. And so I think one of the reasons why she wasn't out as early as she was is because they were working with her behind the scenes, trying to get her public ready. And, you're always going to look at a little disadvantage when you're up against somebody who has those type of oratorical skills, who can deliver. And she's got to, again, that's something that she's got to overcome and become more comfortable with as we get down there. I always say with polls, look, this is going to come down to turnout. Who can churn their people out? If we're expecting a blue wave, kind of a resistance vote from Democrats in November, I think that bodes well for Acton, because I do believe there are going to be some Republicans who are going to stay at home on Ramaswamy for the reasons that we said. And in a tight race, turnout is king. So you got to make sure you get your people out. So if in a tight race, a decent number of Republicans decide that this is not their due for whatever reason, that works. I mean, that might be enough for Amy Acton to pull out a squeaker. But I agree with you. Polls are not votes, right? And that's what matters at the end of the day, is who's going to get their voters out.
Yeah, and that turnout is concerning, especially for Congressional District 1. There's a lot of people on the Democratic side that have to be concerned, including Greg Landsman for his vote, his voter base, and Eric Conroy. That race is going to, you got to be able to get those people to turn out. And I think that on both sides they have candidates that are having trouble with their messaging against all of these different ideologies, because there's been so much polarization that people are just kind of split on each individual issue. And the media doesn't do us any justice when they're making our heads turn constantly because of certain subjects or certain things that they want us to turn to. Last year, we were arguing over the price of eggs. Then we went to immigration. Then we went to, Trump's pool, whatever that thing is, in front of the monumental pool. Now I think we're talking about him falling asleep. I mean, there's so much stuff that we're just turning our heads, and at a certain point you get exhausted. And so who knows really what's going to be on this ballot, what levies will be on there. We do know that the alleviate property tax will not be on a levy. However, Hamilton County is putting some new taxes on the levy for stuff too. So again, they need to get this information out in order to encourage people to get to the polls and vote. The reflection pool. Thank you. That's old age right there. That's all that great. That's old age.
Let me play a video. Let me move on here. There's a Senate candidate in Maine named Graham Plattner. And he's been getting a lot of publicity because of tattoos, because he's coming out of nowhere. He's challenging the establishment. He's running for senator against Susan Collins, who is the Republican, who, by all accounts, is not somebody who it seems like a lot of people in Maine are still supporting for various reasons. But then within the last 36 hours, there was a major allegation that he sexually assaulted a woman in his past. Now, this is on top of other allegations about relationships that he had on the side of his relationship with his wife. And he's got a tattoo that some people are saying was a Nazi tattoo. He claims that he didn't know it was a Nazi tattoo. He got it removed. So he's had a lot of controversy. He's a white male Democrat. Now people are saying that he should step out of the race. I want to play for you a video that he posted on Facebook, just sort of giving his side of the story. A lot of people at this point are saying that he should step out of the race because he's got no chance at winning. But I want to play this for you, and you can tell me what you think. Check this out. Okay. Any day now. Not sure what's up with the audio. Hold on. Okay. Just give me a second here. I'm going to refresh it. Maybe that'll do it.
Address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false. Over the last 10 months, I have been deeply humbled by the faith Mainers have put in me. You have welcomed me into your homes, into your places of work, into your restaurants, into your houses of worship. You have shown that a different kind of politics, one that puts the interests of people over corporations, is not just possible, but is inevitable. This movement we have built, the largest volunteer base in the history of Maine politics, the hundreds of thousands of grassroots donors, and the supporters across the ideological spectrum, we were united in a love of Maine, a belief that our politics must change, and a focus on defeating Susan Collins. So, regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward for the state that I love, the people that I love, the movement I belong to, and the goal of defeating Susan Collins. Those were the goals when we launched this campaign, and they remain my goals today. On June 9th, 154,058 Mainers, the most in primary history, voted to reject a broken politics beholden to Washington and the donor class. They voted for hope, for change, to take back our economy, to take back our power, and to take back our Senate seat. Throughout it all, you never turned your back on me, and I will not turn my back on you now. Every one of you deserves to see that vision come to fruition and see Susan Collins defeated, and we will use every tool at our disposal to do so.
So that's Graham Plattner. I've also got a video for you of his accuser. Let me play this for you, just so you can get a sense of what she has had to say in this whole situation. Check this out.
In the morning, he woke up and he went to go put his arm around me. And I was like, whoa. And realizing this person doesn't know that what happened wasn't okay. And so I remember taking his arm and throwing it back at him. And I said, are you serious, Graham? And he's like, what? And I'm like, do you not remember what happened last night? He's like, no. And I'm like, okay, I need you to get dressed and leave and never talk to me again.
So that's his accuser, and some people are saying that she's believable. Some people are saying that she's not that believable. Some people are saying it's a bit of a coincidence that here he is gaining steam against an established candidate like Susan Collins. This stuff comes out. Other people are saying, hey, what you do in the dark comes to the light. I mean, just given what you know from your vantage point, should Plattner drop out the race, or should he stay in, face his accuser, and try to complete the job of getting rid of Susan Collins? What do you think?
Well, I know this is probably too much to ask in these days and times. I mean, I would say it depends on whether or not the allegations are actually true. So if I'm Graham Plattner and these allegations against me are not true, I'm not dropping out. I'm fighting for my reputation. I'm staying in. If indeed this is a political attack and the allegations are not true. But if you know the allegations are true, and then you have an obligation, or if they can even be remotely true, right? Like, okay, this encounter happened, and maybe I saw it a little differently than the woman did, and there's a possibility that I could have been out of line. And yeah, you gotta get out. But I think that's entirely up to the individual at hand. Part of what I wonder is why didn't the Democratic Party do a better job of vetting Graham Plattner? It's like not necessarily the national DNC, but even those more locally and closer to the ground. Like, these are the sorts of things that if you have a good vetting process, you should see coming. Like, the fact that this lady is coming out at this point in time, this can't be the first time that she's told this story, or this story has come out if it's authentic. And so I think really good investigators, really good vetters should have been able to suss this out, because clearly the opposition was able to. And so that's my first thought is if he's indeed guilty of this, that people on the Democratic side should have found this out about him way before now and came up with a different candidate. Look, there's no such thing as a perfect candidate, but there is such thing as a bad candidate. And Graham Plantner, I believe, is a bad candidate. Even before this, with the Nazi tattoo and some of the other things, I felt like, man, this is I feel like this on many different levels with a lot of candidates that wind up. Like, this is the best we can do. This is the best we got to offer as some of these cats, Republican and Democrat, right? Who can step up to lead. Like, this is what we get. I get that there's no such thing as a perfect person, but man, you got people of character, who ain't got all of this extra baggage out there. That's my main thing with Trump. Like, you got a slate of people who can carry the banner, but you pick this guy, who's got all of this baggage, who's got all of this other stuff behind him. And it's like, what is it about us as a public, as a voting public, that, like, are we in such a win at all costs mentality that we will get the most corrupt, the most immoral individuals to try to run and represent us, when clearly there are better options that you have to choose from? But whether it's the machine or whatever, the political machine that Rosemary spoke of that picks our candidates for us, but like, something has got to give where we have to say, like, man, this is if this is true, is this the best that we can do? Because I hear what happened and this is always tough when you get into this. I always hear what happens in Me Too, and it's like, hey, believe women, right? Like, that's just the automatic thing, believe women. I don't know that I necessarily subscribe to that. I think I subscribe to the trust but verify model, because that there are plenty of examples out there of women who make stuff up on men. So I don't think that it should be one of these things where you dismiss women's claims out of hand, but I also don't think that you just automatically believe something that somebody says to the point that you convict somebody based on somebody else's word. There should be investigation, there should be looking into it, and there should be a determination of whether things actually happen. I think that's fair for the woman. I think that's fair for the man. But there's just this notion that because a woman makes an accusation, like, that's just automatically to be believed. I don't know that I'm 100% on board with that thought process. I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm willing to trust, look into it, absolutely investigate it, check it out. But I think that there have been enough instances of false stories or wrongly accused individuals that we owe it to both parties in that situation to try to find out what the truth is without doing a blanket condemnation, because this is politics, right? Who knows? This could be a political, a guy who's running close in an election, and this could be a political hit job. We don't know. It deserves being looked into, but I at least say, in fairness to that, particularly if he's denying the allegations, that before we all jump to conclusions and say who's guilty and who's not, it needs to be looked into.
When you're talking about the vetting process of Graham Planter for the Democratic Party, this, I think, in my opinion, this happened so fast, and his grassroots movement is so popular. He probably beat the Democrats' possibly proverbial choice. You know what I'm saying? So they have no choice now. And in the movement, to me, from looking at it outside, looking at his campaign and looking at his website, it's not even about him. He's got so many people hating the Susan Collins lady, kind of like how people hating against Trump or hating against Biden, and you don't want to get, like, they're using that approach. And the third thing I'll say about his website is set up as a money-driven donate volunteer. It's a campaign where he's getting donations. And I looked at his Facebook page, 220,000 followers from Maine. Is there 220,000 people in Maine who vote? I don't even know. I mean, so he's got a, in my opinion, grassroots campaign that the Democratic Party was probably salivating to get, because he's a military veteran. Because I think Vernon said that in the chat. He's a military veteran. You don't get too many military veterans who can speak for the Democratic Party. You just don't. Most of those people go to the right. So there's a lot of things. And I mean, who knows about, if it's just a timing, and the coincidence of when this person came out has a lot to do with how you should approach it. And if she came out and how she says it too, how she came out, she said it, she was like, I don't know, man. It's kind of hard for that to be a deciding factor. It's just when she came out with it and how she came out with it. But you can't discredit her. But if he's telling the truth, just let him run the race. He should not drop out of the race if he's telling the truth. If there's some stank behind what she's saying, and there's going to be more stuff coming out of it after that, and more accusers going to come after that, and more accusers come at that, and he's going to, because I mean, I don't know, we all have traits of look at me, but his stuff is just so much, look at me and how I can beat this lady, Susan Collins. So I don't know, man. This is a tough one, but I don't think unless there's more proof that comes out, maybe because this is just this is a TMZ video type stuff that came out that she just leaked. If there's any criminal allegations that come off of it, or more people that come out of it that way. But until then, keep running your race and good luck, planner.
Yeah, first off, I liked everything that you had to say, Kevin. Both of you really, but I don't know if either of you have ever ran, but they don't do background checks on candidates. You are aware of that, right? So anybody can go get a petition and announce their candidacy to run. There's no background checks. They're not pulling to see if there's, now when you go, like for the Republican Party, however, when you go for an endorsement, now they do have, wait a minute, Hamilton County Republican Party, not necessarily Warren County. And I just ran, so I just went through all of these processes for endorsement. So with the endorsement process for Hamilton County Republican Party, they do ask, do you have any convictions? Do you have any tickets? Is there anything that would embarrass this party? However, under Warren County's endorsement, they don't ask those same questions. So there is no real official process before a person pulls a ballot and decide they want to run. So for example, there's a libertarian candidate right now running for Congressional District 1, and he hit somebody with a car and ran, like he did a hit and run. This lady, from what I know, is still in the hospital dealing with brain injuries. He did not step down, remained on the ballot, and he is one of the people that will be on the ballot in November. So it is really up to the individual that's in the race. Will I continue to run? The guy Plattner was not the endorsed candidate. That fits as well. He won his primary, and now he's endorsed or backed by the party, by the machine. So there's just like so many different things incorporated in that. So I guess my question would be, should there be some type of implementation or process put into place for candidates when they decide to run for office? Because right now there is none. So if a candidate wants to run, and people, I won't deny, I went through some things. Does that person need a psychological test? Do we need to make sure they don't have any tickets? Do we need to make sure there's not any skeletons coming out of the closet? So again, I think, what do we need to put in place to make sure that the candidates that we are electing will, keep us safe? And these are positive candidates. But I think that's where, as American citizens, it is our due diligence to do our homework. And that's what they're leaving us with, our due diligence to do our homework and not just follow the machine.
Yeah, this is, do you think that Plattner should step out of the race, Rosemary? Should he drop out?
I was put in a position where, do I drop out of the race when I was running? And I kind of stand with what Terrace was saying. If this guy really didn't do it, and there is a whole nother side to this story, then no, don't step down. Continue to run, fight both of those situations as you run. And this is presented with a lot of candidates. Things come up and you have to make the decision. Do I step down? Do I not step down? I mean, we just saw a story come out where, Amy Acton was taking pills. At one point, when I went through my specific situation, I talked to, Sam Malone. And at that time, he continued to run while he was going through significant things and cases. So again, it just depends on what that case is, what it looks like, how difficult will it be for me to continue to run? Because a lot of times, once these things happen, it also breaks public trust. I mean, if you're not Donald Trump. But and I'm saying that people are mad that I say that, I would laugh, but that's my, what do you call that? Like my subconscious laugh to kind of just work through what I'm saying. But I just think that it's up to the individual, and you will behind the scenes have people come to you and request that you step down. You know, supporters, funders, they will.
That happened to you?
Yes.
Really? So people like friends or people that know politics that came to you and asked you to step away?
Yes. But before I decided to run, I also had people request that I not run for Congress, but run for other offices instead, but not run for Congress. Mm-hmm. So I had more of those people requesting that I run for a different office than to run for Congress. And even after I was recused, the bogus allegations were gone away throughout my campaign. I still had people request that I step down and run for different offices because they just felt that I would be a better suit. And again, that's the machine. And they just felt I would be a more viable candidate. But too, the outcome was I wasn't going to win. So they were like, hey, get in this seat. You're more likely to win. We'll support you. We'll back you. But at that moment, when you're walking by faith, and this was a faith choice, this was, a faith choice for me to run and continue to run, irregardless of the outcome, irregardless of the stigma and how people viewed me. I just continued to run. So I kind of ignored those people, but it became very challenging.
Yeah.
When
Let me play some more for you. This is a CNN speaking with the accuser. Just a little bit more I want to play for you so you can get a sense of where she's coming from. And she also said that basically they ended up spending the night together. She said she woke up the next morning and she said basically she can understand how he doesn't remember what was going on. Apparently they were drinking. But here's what she has to say in her own words.
Graham Plattner as a very good example of what modern dating is like.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean by that is that, I think there's a lot of situationships. I think people are dating multiple people at the same time, whether that's known or not known by the people involved. So it was just a very common practice is what I viewed it as.
And kind of casual.
Yeah, very casual.
And when did you meet him and how did you meet him?
Met him on Bumble actually in 2019.
These damn apps. And she goes on to talk about how they woke up the next morning.
Wait a minute. This is a single man. This is a single man planner. It's a single man.
I believe he is married.
They're on Bumble. Bumble's a dating app for single people, not for people who are married and project. So that changes a lot of trajectory. If he's just a single man out here, like she said, modern dating out there. I mean, every time you swipe left or swipe right to meet somebody, you're putting yourself, you never. I don't know, man. Now, as more evidence, as you present more evidence, this could be a hit piece. She said a situationship. She's talking about dating multiple people. Sounds like some feelings got involved with it. It wasn't just that's what it sounds like to me from the clip that you just played.
See, here's the trouble.
What men need to understand is, number one, you can't be out here drinking to the point where you pass out in public because things might happen. You might do things. It's just irresponsible because you're knocked out. You don't know what's going on. And she spoke to that. She was like, well, the next day, he probably don't even remember what happened. So now he don't even remember what happened. And she's claiming that some things went down that she didn't really want to go down, but you were out. So you have no recollection of it. That's just crazy. But for me, if I knew I was innocent, she gonna have to prove that. She gonna have to prove it.
Yeah.
You gonna have to prove every single allegation. If you ain't got no proof, then I'm coming for you. It's simple as that. And I don't know how this is gonna play out. If I was in Maine, that's a difficult that's a tough decision between Susan Collins getting her out and what that means, and who is this man really? And at this point, it's an allegation. And I'm not saying that we should discount it because I believe in believing in victims. At the same time, okay, I believe you, but you got to show me more proof than just what you're saying.
And here's the problem with when you make these kind of allegations and people start telling their stories publicly. what you wind up happening is people start dissecting the story and trying to make sense of whether or not you're telling the truth. And this is the challenge in these cases, particularly when you're talking about dynamics between men and women, whether that's dating, sexual relationships, what one person interprets one thing and another who doesn't. It's like this is the messiness and sometimes the inconclusion that you can get. Okay, well, did she go get a rape kit done? Right? Where did this take place? Was this at his crib or hers? Because I'm having a hard time reconciling that if a guy sexually assaulted you, what are you or he doing there in the morning for him to wake up and have his arm around you? I kind of feel like if somebody sexually assaults me, I sure as hell ain't laying in the bed with you until in the morning, right? For you to even be able to reach over and to throw your arm up. And see, this is the thing.
I hear you, Kevin, but there's a problem with that. Is that sometimes when you're traumatized, you don't know how you might.
I get that, Nathan. I get that, Nathan. And a lot of people will say that, but this is what I'm saying. This is what you subject yourself to the type of dissection when these kinds of accusations come into it. And I get why women who are sexually assaulted say, see, we don't want to go through this like this because your story is going to be dissected and women will have to answer for decisions such as, what are you doing in a room with a guy that's like super drunk? Not that that's an excuse, but it does bring into question the decisions that women make where they put themselves in bad situations where you can possibly wind up like this. And so those are the ways that stories get dissected, particularly when they become political things, that it becomes very messy and difficult to discern what the truth is.
But what do you mean by how women put themselves in situations? She was going on a date nap. Just because you go on a date nap, even if you go home with somebody, don't mean he can take advantage of you.
No, but what I'm saying is, Nathan, is look, there are. And nobody is saying that this is an excuse for anybody to get assaulted. But what I'm saying is that I would think, as cautious as women are these days, that if you are with a handsy guy who is drunk, why that, like, that's a position that I'm saying, why would you put yourself in that dangerous position? Hey, dude, I'm going to leave you at the door and I'm going to go to my place, or I'll see you later. You're in no condition to come into my room. I mean, look, we got on some of this stuff.
Maybe she wanted to go into the room.
You know what? So I'm going to say this.
Common sense. You got to
I'm going to say this to Kevin because I've been in a situation where I was assaulted. I done had a whole lot of different life experiences. And there is a fear that is there when you're still in that position. Will this man hurt me? How do I get out? How do I call the police if he's still here? Did this really happen? There's a shock factor when you get into just because you're at my house and I kiss you doesn't mean I want to go all the way and you push me down and I feel uncomfortable. No, that's where this no means no. And so to sit there and have these precautionaries like women are so this and so that, you don't know what a person's intentions are when they walk in there. And again, I don't know what happened, but I will say walk lightly in what you're saying, because I've been in positions where I've been in cars with men's, or I've had men friends at my home and it turned left and I didn't know how that would react. And I'm a very cautionary person. Mm-hmm. So it's just different situations. You don't know how to act in that moment. And I'm not saying this is what happened with this woman, but I am also questioning too, because again, sometimes it takes that time. I am questioning just of her. Why now? Or is it a precautionary tale because of his character? Is it that you don't believe he will be a good leader? Is it that you have finally formed your voice to be able to speak on it? And in that instance, why go to the media? Why not press charges? And so there are some questions there, even as a woman, and a lot of times it takes a lot to press charges on somebody that does that to you, whether you're raped, molested, etc., and further to move past it and come to closure on it. So walk lightly. That's the only thing I'm going to say. Walk lightly.
And I understand I'm not insensitive. I'm
to be
not
put in
insensitive to
situation.
any of what you said, Rosemary, and or your personal experience or anything like that. But I feel like this. We say walk lightly, but there got to be some. We got to be able to have these conversations, particularly sensitively, because of the stakes and things that are there. And I think if which I don't have a daughter, but I do have a goddaughter. And I think if I were a father or someone advising my daughter or any young woman, is in particular, and I'm not talking about like a casual dating experience where, hey, you're like you said, you're in the car with somebody, you're trusting them, and things go left. I understand those types of things that can happen. But I'm talking about these types of situations where you're talking about intoxication, where people are clearly not in their right mind. If I'm with somebody, if I'm a man
You a
and I'm
minister
with
and
a
you
woman and I'm
judging
with a
so
woman,
heavy. Have you
if
never
I'm a,
gotten
and
drunk?
this is just the way I think. This is the way I think. Okay. And I get everybody don't think like me. But if I'm a man and I'm with a woman who's heavily intoxicated, ain't no way I'm doing nothing with that woman. I'm taking you home. I'm dropping you off because you know why? Because I don't want that woman waking up in the morning saying, oh, I didn't consent to that, or I don't remember what you did, or you raped me. Because now, if I put myself in that position as a man, if I put myself and lay with a woman who's drunk and clearly not in her faculties, that is a poor decision on my part. So if I choose to do something with that lady, right, and she accuses me of rape the next morning, I can't be like, oh man, I put myself in that position. So what I'm saying is that there has to be some very real conversation about decision making where alcohol and things of that nature are involved, to where you're not putting yourself in those vulnerable situations to where those types of things can happen, to you. And that's all I'm saying
Whatever can happen.
it's not a reason for something to happen. It's just a conversation about how do we be smarter so that we have fewer women and fewer men involved in these situations where there is room for misunderstandings, right? Like that's what I'm trying to have. That's how you prevent this kind of stuff, is not victim blaming or anything, but having a legitimate conversation about women, men. Don't put yourself in bad situations. This is a bad situation that somebody somewhere along the way had an opportunity to remove themselves from and did not make that choice.
I expound on what Kevin's saying real quick, and I think I'm as 8 years sober this month. What Kevin is saying, in my opinion, is absolutely. Whenever I'm talking to anybody about anything, as soon as they start talking alcohol and bringing alcohol into the equation, everything's off the table. Anything goes. When you're drinking and you're in that state, and you're like, if you're on those Bumble apps and you're going out and you're meeting at a bar and you're both actively drinking, nothing but trouble comes from that. And I'm telling you, I've lived that life. I was an alcoholic for 20 years. I rolled the dice drinking every day for 20 years of my life. So I know alcohol in any situation, in any situation with alcohol where alcohol is involved, nothing good ever comes from it.
I've never been on an app, so I can't speak to it. I can't speak to it. And like I said, this is a situation that ultimately, should he step down, if he's saying he didn't do it, run your race. And this woman, if this really happened to her, she needs to fight her battle. And so that's what's going to happen. And because it was brought in front of the limelight, unfortunately, there's going to be attacks on both sides.
Yeah, in my opinion, I thought Planner should have stepped down even before this. Like when the whole Nazi tattoo thing happened and a bunch of other things involving him, I was skeptical when I heard about the Nazi tattoo thing. I was skeptical of dude from that point on, and I'm just like, yeah, is this somebody that you really want representing you? And I think I had an issue with people who were willing to overlook that. Oh, really? You didn't know? You just got a Nazi tattoo and just didn't happen to know what that was. I'm not believing that. I'm not believing that. And so he's got enough on with that and some other things. He's got enough on his record even prior to this that made him a questionable candidate. Like I said, is this the best that we can do? And it's like, so if he does step out because of this, I'm like, I already thought you should have been gone, dude. And before this even came up.
But I think too, if you just wait in the fold, a lot of times, and it's unfortunate to say, people that have done something like this, there's a pattern. So there may be somebody else that come forward, because a lot of times these aren't one-time incidents or one-time happenings. And so again, we just gonna have to wait it out and see, whether he's a viable candidate or not. He still has his right to run, even if the party tries to push him out. He's the front runner. He won his primary, and therefore he's in the race, unless he's formally charged, locked up. But then again, we still had a president running underneath that too. And so these are just, and I guess that leads to the question: should laws be changed? If you're arrested and because you have your right to due process, should you be able to run while you're going through these type of things? And that's a question of, legally, should the laws and rules for running for office change? When was the last time they were reviewed? We don't know, but maybe that's the question in itself, not necessarily each individual candidate that has had to step down because of these things, but should there be a vetting process, a stronger vetting process put into place before these things happen? And right now, we all have a right to go pull a petition to run for office if you feel you're qualified to do so.
Let the voters in Maine decide. Let the voters in Maine decide whether let them. If he wants to stay in the race, they'll give us clear message in November whether they stand behind her or if they don't. I mean, you never know. If he drops out, he won't know. But I would, let the voters decide that one.
Here's the thing I think Democrats fear is, though, right, is if Graham Planner does get elected, it undercuts the moral standing that they want to stand on, because you can't really criticize Trump for grabbing women and 34 felony convictions and all of this other kind of stuff, and the moral high ground that Democrats like to take on the issue. You can't do that when you got Graham Planner standing there in the background, because every time you get ready to say something about Donald Trump, they're going to be like, well, what about Graham Planner? And the Democrats have been very good about removing their own who are kind of involved in that. You remember the dude from Minnesota during Me Too, when some stuff came up on him, which he denied, right? Al Franken. Yeah, and they made Al Franken get out, and he took the sword for the good of the party, right? Even though he probably really wanted to fight against it for himself and his own reputation, but he fell on the sword for the party because they asked him to step down and move down. Graham Planner, I imagine now that Bernie Sanders, kind of his mentor, his father in politics, so to speak, has come out and said for him to step down. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes ahead and does that now. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that they still would have time to do some kind of little small primary or something like that in Maine, or maybe they got somebody already in mind. But, we saw how well that worked out for Kamala, trying to run a campaign on a short window and win an office. So it's not ideal. It's not an ideal situation, no matter how you cut it, for the Democrats in their hopes of using Kamala.
I think it's clear, whether it's true or not, that he actually assaulted her, that her motivations were political. That's the reason why she chose this timing, because she wants to have an effect on, his Senate aspirations. So, people have to make this. My thing, if you make accusation, okay, great, I hear you. Give me some proof. And it's got to be more than just your word. Give me some actual proof to back up what you're saying. Because if not, it's just he said, she said. And somebody can walk up to any one of us and accuse us of something. Yes. Anybody can accuse you of anything at any point. Yes. And now you have to prove something that never happened, which is impossible. So now you're stuck. Right? Trying to put out all these fires that you never created, and it all could just be politically motivated. So we shall see. I want to see him stay in the race and fight it. That's what Trump would do, right?
Well, it's the admit no wrong, no apology, move forward type thing. And again, I did a column on this during the Gowrine Massey race on whether morals and ethics mattered to voters anymore, and they really don't. You know, it's like the position has been that most people feel like all of these politicians are crooked and dirty anyway, and I'm gonna go with my dirty guy over your dirty guy or woman. You know, and that's kind of the, you know, that's kind of the attitude with the tribalism. You know, the worst Republican is better than the best Democrat and vice versa. That's kind of the feeling that people have, right? It's sad. I think it is, as somebody who values that type of thing. It's clear that for the voting public, it's about winning. It's about policy, and all of that other kind of stuff is the example that you set or your character. That's kind of secondary to winning and getting what I need out of you.
But I mean, but right now in America, what is the moral compass? It used to be the Bible. It used to be Christian religion. It used to be, but now we have really no moral standard. And so what do they have to base it against? It can't be people. So what is that moral standard? How do we say this person is moral? This person has integrity. This person is a true leader when we have no standard to place it against? Is it the Pope? Is it the president? Is it the, you know, the free leader over, you know, is it, what is it? You know, it just, who is the moral standard that we look to? Is it the Bible? But then they question that, and there are so many Bibles. Is it? So again, I think that's why they've taken that out of there and just said, pick a side. And again, I think that helps to fuel all of this polarization, all of this divide, because each one of us now are holding on to our premises of what is moral, what is good, and what is righteous.
Yeah, I think there are basically some, regardless of what religion you belong to or religion that you don't belong to, I believe that there's some universal truths that cut across that I think we can all, let's just call them values, that we kind of all accept. Stealing is wrong, right? I think most people would agree with that.
Unless you steal because you're hungry.
Well,
that's the way y'all Democrats think.
Look, people may make excuses for theft, but I still think there's a universal understanding that theft is not something that should be encouraged or something that we should see as right. Even in those circumstances, if you're hungry, there are plenty of alternatives that you could take that don't involve stealing, where you can still eat. We got tons of food pantries. We got a lot of different things, different ways.
That's here in Ohio, but that's not everywhere.
Hey, look, you can get a meal. You can get a meal from somewhere if you're hungry. That it doesn't require you to have to steal to get it.
But that wouldn't require.
I always say, if anybody thinks that there's only one option to get something done, your circle ain't big enough. You ain't asked enough questions. You haven't looked in enough spaces where you
I did not know you were that judgmental. Oh my,
it's not judgmental. That's the truth.
You judgmental.
Hey, I'll say this to you, Rosemary. I'll say this to you, Rosemary. The truth always sounds judgmental. That's why.
No. I stand on truth too, but I can still have an eye of discernment. So I mean, but just some of the things, some of your perspectives, and maybe that's because you flesh, may not be in the same alignment as biblical truths from where I see.
I'm not flesh. I'm very much spiritual. I mean, that was an awfully judgmental statement, right?
I'm just nitpicking with you. I'm just
okay.
That writes Republicans.
But you also the minister that would lay hands on the sick.
I like that.
Literally.
I like that. Though.
Literally.
I like
that.
that.
Okay.
I like that.
That's the poor decline of America. That writes Republicans are the biggest thieves. That's what he says. We got 2 Republicans with us. What do you think about that?
What did he say?
He said Republicans are the biggest thieves. That's what Matt said.
One hand thief, robbing Peter to play Paul. They both of them. 2 sides.
Depending on what you look at as thievery, is that depending on how you define thievery. Are they going out here knocking on people's doors, holding them up at gunpoint? Not necessarily. Are they paying lower wages or using people overseas that, while we might look at it as slavery wages, but over there, that's a wage that would feed their family. So it just really truly depends on how you look at it. But I do believe in thou shalt not steal. And, I think that we should come back to cutting our fingers for those that do.
Old school. Okay. I'm going to bring out the sword, and cut off some fingers.
Well, last week we were supposed to be talking about Canaan
Caning, yeah.
Caning.
Is that where you bring that back? I don't know.
I think that we don't have enough shame. That we've alleviated that at some point in our society. People aren't ashamed. They don't have shame. They don't carry that. And that's why when somebody can accuse you of rape, you're not even ashamed that they did it, or even that they thought or perceived that you would do that in order to step down. And that in itself is moral. I wouldn't even want anybody to presume that Miss Rosemary is out here attacking kids, because my perception would be, why would you even think that I would do that? And so that in itself would make me really think about my moral character as wanting to be your leader. So again, I just look at things a little bit differently. But again, I try to lead my life in a Christ-like way.
I want to bring up an analogy too that's similar to this, but the University of Louisville basketball program was taken down by one lady named Katrina Powell, who was they paid her to come and speak out against they said they had strippers in the dorm rooms, and some attorney firm got her to do that because there were some things going on in the University of Louisville Board of Trustees. But things like these allegations stick. This lady got paid like 15 grand. And then like two separate occasions, they had female escorts or dancers going into the dorm rooms during a recruiting visits for kids for the University of Louisville, Kentucky. So they single-handedly uses Katrina Powell, gave her a $15,000, I think, book deal or something like that. She blew through that money, and that allegation single-handedly cost University of Louisville national championships. They had to get stripped for their championship because of these allegations, and put us on a decline from 2014 to just now getting back into some relevancy in the college basketball, because COVID and all those kind of things. But it was same playbook. They accused of some misconduct sexually or something like that, and it took hold. People just like those kind of stories.
You talking about Katrina Powell? I don't remember all the details with that, but
Katrina Powell, she took down.
Right. I think Hot Mike would have done wonders for Rosemary's campaign. She should have been on here earlier. I would have at least thought about voting for her. Okay. Is that right, Tony? All right. Ryla writes, Vivek is the ultimate scam artist. He got rich off of using his mother's name to pump up a drug he knew would never work. Dude should never be governor. Let's see. Drop writes, nearly all of the leaders of the main Democratic Party, including the party chairman, legislative leaders, and other Democratic nominees for Congress and governor, have called on Plattner to drop out. Democrats give up too easy. They expel their own too easy. But again, if they got dirt on them and it's credible, hey, you got to step out. But if he didn't do it, you got to fight it to the very end. To the very
like 100 days. Wait, give them 100 days. Give the new candidate about 100 days to work with, like they did Kamala, and see how that works for them.
Again, this is typical what Democrats do. The only problem that I have with them, like they said, they wait until now. They wait until this. There were plenty of other opportunities where you saw this guy was trouble, but you was gonna overlook it because he was polling well and he was looking well. And I agree with you, Nathan. The Republicans have decided that they don't care about that. I mean, Rosemary, is ironic that you talk about the loss of shame, and y'all president, y'all standard bearer was the one who killed it. Donald Trump ushered in the age of shamelessness. I mean, this is a man who lies with impunity, who does all sorts of immoral and unethical things, and everybody in that party defends him. They bend the knee. So if we live in an age of shamelessness, it's the Republican Party that has ushered that in and enabled it. I'm not going to say that shamelessness didn't always exist to some degree, but it's become in vogue now. It's like, hey, you say something wrong, you double down on it. You do something wrong, you double down on it. I don't think it's a weakness of the Democrats. I mean, one would certainly perceive it that way in these days and times where you have one party who don't give a care, and a voting base that apparently doesn't either, despite, what evangelicals and others will want to say about what they claim to believe, spiritually. this is the age that we live in, and Democrats trying to take the moral high ground in an era of shamelessness looks like weakness. It's sad that that's how that's being defined now, but that's where we're at. That's why I'm saying we're at a win in all costs era. The Democrats should be applauded for asking Graham Plattner to step down, if indeed. Again, I would have even gone back to the Nazi tattoo thing. Like, no, this is not. How can you sit there and be critical of the Patriot Front? Donald Trump saying good people on both sides. Jews will not replace us. Not saying anything about that. And you got a dude on your ticket that got a Nazi tattoo on him. It's the hypocrisy that drives people nuts, right? If you're paying attention, dude should have been gone. But it takes this. It takes a
So I got a question. Would it have mattered had he gotten the tattoo removed and then ran, and he still was holding on to those same beliefs that just weren't made?
That's what I said.
That's what I'm asking. Like, I just think for me personally, again, I know who's the leader of the country. I know about the party. I know all the things. I live my life judging and making decisions on individual basis, on individual people. Like, it's really difficult for me to say all y'all Democrats and people like she said, but that's a joke. Like, and that's why I laugh behind it. I don't think that, like I said, I've never heard Kevin judge so much, but again, he's a columnist too. So, and that's why I'm just nitpicking. But do I believe he's a bad person with zero morals? No, absolutely not. Because we've had some very in-depth conversations. So again, it's just up to each individual on their premises and their moral character. But, I stand by the 10 commandments, thou shalt not steal, kill, all the other things. So, it's just difficult times for everybody. And I do think that we need to bring some uniform moral compass back to the U.S. And will we do it underneath this administration? I don't know. Will it take some time? Because it took us some time to get here. It's going to take us some time to wrap that back around. But as we understand, it always wraps that back around. But will it wrap back around 10 times worse, or will it be better? I don't know. There's no way to make it again, but how do we make it better moving forward with a moral lens that we can all be proud of as Americans?
Yeah, I want to say something for you guys. Rilo had a comment. He said, I disagree, Kevin A. We need some Democrats out here who are willing to go low like Trump and his boys do. And that and what Rilo expresses, I think, is how a lot of Democrats feel. And, in all seriousness, as someone who is being a believer, what that says to me is you believe that you can beat hate with hate, that you can beat darkness with darkness. And again, I'm somebody who
that's not what that means.
Personally of the mindset that I believe that love conquers hate, that light defeats darkness. And when we start becoming when we start trying to become the thing that we hate, there's no victory in that, because it's like, what are you fighting for? It's like, what are you fighting for? I still believe that on some level, I haven't yet bought entirely into this notion that people are merely their basest desires. That I think if you have the right type of individual with the right kind of positive message, that you can overcome what Donald Trump is trying to create America and do. It's not stooping down to his level, getting down in the dirt. It's like they say, if you get down in the mud with pigs, you can't discern the pig from whoever else. Or if you're arguing with a fool, it's hard to determine who the fool really is. And so I get why people feel that way, because they're frustrated, because it looks like evil, it looks like darkness, it looks like wrong is winning now. And the quick result to that is to compromise and play that way. I don't believe that, but that's just me personally. I believe in higher things being able to win.
That is the complete wrong way to address this. That is the absolute wrong way to address it. And all that nice guy, I'm gonna play with dignity, you're gonna lose every single time. That's right. When you get into a fist fight and somebody pull something, you pull something. If y'all agree that y'all gonna do things a certain way and you see your opponent is cheating, you start cheating. All this, I'm gonna play the nice guy role, please. You're gonna lose every single time. So when they go low, you go lower. When they use certain tactics, you use certain tactics. It's win or lose. All that nice guy, I feel good about myself, you're gonna be sitting on the sidelines forever. This is winner takes all. Period.
Yeah,
That's what it's all about. All that other stuff.
So Nathan, you the same kind of guy that believes. So again, I come at it from a spiritual level. Then you the kind of guy that believes that the devil wins. You the kind of guy that believes that the devil wins in the end.
What offers me more protection, God or guns? I'm getting that firearm every single time. That's the guy I am.
Okay.
And then when I pass on, then me and God can talk about all that spiritual stuff.
Okay.
But in this world, when they reach, I'm reaching. When they go low, I'm going low. Simple as that. And that's what this world is built upon. And that's the reason why the Republicans are ahead right now. Because they ain't playing no games.
I don't believe that's what this world was built upon. No, I don't believe that, because when God created Earth in 7 days, He didn't say I'm gonna put Adam and Eve on here, and when Eve throw an apple at Adam, he better get his in and take her to hell. Like that's not what this world was built upon. But I get it, and everybody has that discernment to make those choices, but you have to be ready for the consequences of those choices. You have to be ready for the reaping of those choices. And so that's up to each individual. And that's why America is so great, because you can make those choices. Somebody pulls a gun on you, I'm gonna pull my gun on them. If they come back and I think they gonna kill me, I can put a switch on mine so I can kill you faster. And that's the way that our youth are thinking too. The exact same way that you're thinking, that's how our youth are thinking. They gonna come for me, so let me kill them first. And I think that we need more leaders like Kevin Aldridge and others to be able to say there still is a higher ground, and we still need people here to be able to take that higher ground. And that's what I'm standing on.
But this country is not. This country ain't founded on no higher ground. We just dropped bombs on Iran. It was completely unprovoked, and all y'all Republicans was like, "Good answer." Keep bombing.
So was your congressman. So come on. So was your congressman. He voted on that too. Congressional District 1.
Landsman.
You don't know who your congressman is. Come on now. See, now I'm very disappointed in you if you don't know who your congressman is.
Who it is.
We shouldn't even be having this conversation.
I guess I would just point to.
I'm not saying that every choice will be the right choice, because again, there's so many choices, so many consequences to these choices, and so many decisions to be made. So again, you can bring up one thing and you want to base that whole thing on that one thing.
Big thing. Like one big thing. You talking about the war in Iran? Like one big thing.
There's also been times that we didn't have wars and we didn't drop bombs.
I love how we're diminishing the impact of going to war in Iraq and war in Iran, which has impacted the entire economy. But it's just one little thing. That's what I'm talking about. So we can talk that.
Was it in the protection of the country? Should there have been approval? Should there have been congressional oversight? Should there have been a lot of different things? Do people still believe that Israel is the holy ground? But are those true Jews? And are they still formed in the religious basis of what that country is? I don't know. I'm not over there. And to watch the news and believe everything that we see in the media, I'm just glad that. But if I would have made it to Congress, had they voted for me, I'd have been able to vote. And then you would have seen how I really would have truly felt. But again, those were choices that other people made.
The Democratic Party is using this planter guy as a nothing burger as usual. I just looked up this basic search on this Susan Collins lady, who is the Mitch McConnell of Maine. Like, she's been tenured forever. She won her last election by 100,000 votes. This dude would have to go. It's like every time that Kentucky had a vote to unseat Mitch McConnell, they get whoever, Charlie Booker, Amy McGrath, and put all this money behind this Democratic Party, and they end up getting beat by hundreds of thousands of votes. I believe this will happen with this lady again. She's just, and plus she's a moderate Republican, pro-choice, voted again. She's LGBTQ friendly. This guy's going to have to, he's got his work cut out for him if he even planned on even running with her, just from basic glance. So I believe all this hype and all this planter news, it could be inside toiling by the Democratic Party just to get some attention, because they know they got no chance of winning. So they throw some kind of stuff out there just to eat their own. Kind of they did it with Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders was starting to get momentum. And I believe that about this guy. I don't know nothing about him, just saying 220,000 followers and on a Facebook page, that's a movement. And it's coming out of Maine. I mean, and he's got Bernie Sanders supporting him, and Bernie Sanders is middle of the road. Like he had people like myself looking at the Democratic Party in a different way. I believe that the Democratic Party might be scared of this dude and bringing this stuff in there because he has no chance of winning. So why is he even relevant in national news when he's going to get dog walked in November?
Well, I don't know that I mean, that may happen now in light of all of this, but I think, most of the reporting from out of Maine was not necessarily that he was going to win. I mean, I think it's a lot like what we're talking about the governor's race, here in Ohio. It's like clearly you've got an advantage with the Republican incumbent in that state, and you got Planner who's trying to come in and beat her. So it's not like the deck was stacked in his favor per se necessarily, but it was a gettable race, and I think that's why the party was willing to overlook some of these things earlier, because there was a chance that this guy might pull the upset in a seat that they won and trying to reclaim Congress. So, but this they couldn't overlook. They couldn't overlook, particularly with the stance that they've taken against Trump on some of these issues, particularly when it comes to women. And when women are such a big part, Me Too women in particular, are such a big part of your voting base, you can't just overlook this.
Yeah, I mean, I stand by what I said, though. Like I said, you can play that that kumbaya world if you want to. That's not how this world really works. And depending on your scenario, when you're engaged in combat, it's win or lose. All that, moral victories and we gave it a good shot means absolutely.
It's not moral victory, Nathan. It's a belief, and I get it. Everybody ain't got it. But if you believe in a higher power who's in control and not us, and basically is going to determine things according to his will, then you trust that his ways are the ways that you live and operate, and you don't operate under the way man thinks. I understand how you think, and I understand how a lot of people think that way. When you don't have that spiritual grounding and foundation, you will go with anything goes. But that's why the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King preached nonviolence. This notion that good guys finish last is a lie. It's a notion. It's a good guys finish first with good people. The problem is we ain't got a lot of we got a lot of bad people. The devil wins
because he's a deceiver, and he put those thoughts in your mind. That's why the devil wins.
I'm thinking. That's that hubris and arrogance against people who think they're spiritual, because you think that spiritual. Somebody, people who claim to be spiritual, because we don't know till we get there. Like we all speculate and we have faith because we don't really know, because nobody's been to the other side and came back. So it's all faith, right? Faith means I believe in something and I believe even though I can't prove it. So it's all faith.
It's without seeing it, not proving it.
People believe that they know what it is and what God is, because none of us has been there and came back yet. But the mistake that you're making, Kevin, is you can challenge the assumption of what it takes to, like when you're engaged, like in politics and doing what you got to do, and still be spiritual. That doesn't mean you're not a spiritual person.
No, but how you go about doing things matters, Nathan. It does. How you go about doing the ends don't always justify the means, not when you're trying to walk that path, because what it says is that you don't trust that God's ways are the right ways, that you're going to handle it yourself, your way, the way that man does. And so it's just a different mentality, that if you're not connected in that way, and it's not arrogance and hubris, it's the ultimate trust in a higher power that you believe in. You're right. We're all operating on faith. But I think if you are connected and plugged in that way, your faith comes by what you see, how God works in your life. And that's the evidence that God is real. If you ain't got that connection and you ain't looking at it that way, you're not going to see it that way. And I get it. Like I said, I get a lot of people who ain't connected like that. And
I want to say it's really difficult to walk in a Christ-like way. And again, I claim that I'm a Christian, not a Christian nationalist, not a Christian, all of this other stuff, but a person that wakes up daily to walk in the way Christ did, activating in kindness and love. When you're running for office, it is very difficult to keep and have those moral stances. You know what I mean? To make these decisions, because you have a lot of people around you that are challenging that. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. That's why the other day when you was like, will you ever run again? My definitive is no, me being in flesh. If God called me to run again, that's something different. But I don't even think I was called for a whole different reason. That could take a whole show to determine that. But it is very difficult to walk in a Christ-like way and be in these very unsettling rooms where you're questioning things. And, just saying it from a perspective of I've been, working, being out here, going in different rooms, Democratic rooms and Republican rooms. Like even in Republican rooms, before they start an event, they praying, they saying the pledge to the flag. I've been in so many Democratic rooms. Y'all don't pray over dinner, and so there's a difference there, but that doesn't necessarily mean, and I'm not talking about their morals, I'm just talking about their way. And so that in itself brought me more comfort standing on the grounds that I stood on. But again, I wouldn't run again because it is very difficult to make these choices, because you are making these choices on a greater good, but you're also praying before each one of those choices. And I have a very different relationship with God and Christ than maybe Kevin does, because it's my personal relationship.
Can I say something what she just said also? A lot of these decisions and these things when you're operating, because I don't know if you know this, Rosemary, but I am an elected official. I've been elected. I'm a city councilman in the city that I live in Dayton, Kentucky.
I didn't know.
Yeah, and I've been elected, and I will be a city councilman in this city for as long as I want to. I made the connection with the people, and they let me know that too. So, but there's a lot of things, like if I was to step into and go into a state representative or something like that, a lot of these decisions are made over alcohol. So if you're trying to run in a moral compass and you're like trying to think of the thing on the higher road, and you're thinking that you're going to get things accomplished just by filing proper legislation and doing things the right way, when the majority of the people who are in these positions are making these decisions over bourbon or over a cocktail or over these kind of things, and when they get to the meetings, it's just a basic formality of going through the process. So it's a different kind of, you're different with messing with a different animal. And in my opinion, it is alcohol driven. These are decisions made in parties and these secret, not secret, they're not secret, but they're just like, they're not privy to everybody, but they're, like they meet up at their certain bar afterwards and they're having their cocktails and they're talking about, oh yeah, did you see that when that happened in an area? We're going to vote this way, right? Blah, 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 blah. And then when they get to the formal meetings, that's when they going through the motions. By the time that the second and third reading is going down, and then and when you start going on the Senate level and the state level, and they're trying to get these bills passed, and anybody can put a bill in there. There's 260 of them, and then you got these Senate committees trying to get people to get. I mean, and most of it's done over alcohol before any of that. So that's what we're dealing with whenever. And then when you get to someone like the Grand Planner guy, who I believe is grassroots and's taken the Democratic Party by surprise. They didn't think that he would win the primary. Now that he's won the primary and he's got some momentum, they're like, how can we stop this guy? Because if he gets into this office for however many years, he's going to go against what they are trying to push. So it's a whole bunch of stuff. I just wanted to say that alcohol in politics is huge and makes a lot of decisions are made over alcohol.
So I want to make this point again. So if we're talking about like doing what you got to do, we had a conversation about the various states and they were gerrymandering. And it was like Gavin Newsom came out. He was like, look, in response to what y'all doing, we gonna gerrymander too. That's what I mean. Some people might have been like, well, once you start this, it's a gerrymandering arms race. Well, then it's a gerrymandering arms race.
But that's not. But I don't consider that dirty politics.
No, that's not dirty politics.
That's politics within. That's politics within the framework.
Let me give you another example. What you might think is dirty politics, but this goes back to what I said about nice guys finishing last. Mitch McConnell, who we don't know where he's going. He might be in a coma or unconscious right now. Wish him the best. But look at what he did in terms of grabbing those two Supreme Court seats away from Obama. Now that was against precedence. It had never happened before, and it was dirty politics. But that's the point I'm trying to make. Now they've got a 6-3 comfortable majority for the next generation of Supreme Court. And that's what I'm talking about. All that turning of the cheek and we got to do the right thing. Yeah, you can do that at home with your friends, around the good church folks. But when you get out here in the real world with them sharks, you got to move like a shark or you're going to get devoured.
I think all of the things that the two examples that you just described there, I would just, you can call it dirty politics, you can call it whatever, but it's within the framework. Yes, it may be unprecedented, but it wasn't illegal. It wasn't quote unquote immoral. It was political gamesmanship. And Mitch McConnell got away with what he could get away with. Like, that's different than stealing. That's different than stealing from American taxpayers, lying with impunity. I'm talking about moral and ethical things. I'm not talking about playing within the bounds of what's allowable in politics. Look, gerrymandering, if Democrats had the ability to draw maps in the way that they wanted to draw maps, they would draw them in their favor too. And they have in the past when they've had that opportunity. So let's just not pretend like gerrymandering is only something that Republicans do and were invented. Every party that's been in control and has had an opportunity to draw political maps, that's in vogue now. And look, this is one of those areas where liberals will be, oh, Kevin, because they don't like the truth. But the truth is if you got the ability and the power to draw lines, you draw them in your favor. You're not drawing fair bipartisan lines. Democrats didn't do it. Republicans are doing it now. What I'm arguing about now with the gerrymandering is that at least in Ohio, the people of Ohio have stepped up and said, this is what we want. And the Republicans are not responding to that. That's different. Because the Democrats wouldn't have anything to say if they were able to draw the maps on their own. They absolutely would be protecting theirs and giving themselves advantages. That's political gamesmanship. That's the game. I wouldn't call that dirty politics. That's the way they do it, right? So dirty politics is not listening to what the people told you to do.
You're forgetting a lot of context for the people. So, for instance, we all know that it was Donald Trump who put pressure on Republican states to gerrymander because they had a fear about losing in the midterms. Am I wrong about that?
Say that again.
I said we all know that it was President Donald Trump who started putting pressure on Republican majority states to gerrymander because he was afraid about losing the midterms. Isn't that how this whole thing started over the last couple of years?
Yeah.
Okay. And then it was people like Gavin Newsom who, in response, so it wasn't Democrats who were out there. He wasn't trying to gerrymander California prior to what Trump was trying to do with these southern states. It was in response to it. So when we're having this conversation, we do too much, and it does a disservice to the truth when we do the both sides argument and not give people the full context of how we got to where we are. That's how we got here.
But we're not in disagree. Like, I'm not what I'm talking about in terms of how we conduct ourselves. Like, I don't think Gavin Newsom is doing anything out of line in doing that. Like, I would not call his response to that as being dirty politics. When I say don't get down in the dirt with Trump and some of the stuff that he's doing, I'm not talking about stuff that's within the boundaries of politics.
So what are you talking about there?
Again, I've given perfect examples. Lying, cheating, stealing from the taxpayers, not following things that that voters have asked for example, of saying we want fair legislative maps drawn and ignoring that. Like, that was a referendum that Ohio voters passed. And not doing that, that's the type of stuff that I'm not in favor of doing those types of things. But what you described, I wouldn't call it. I would call that politics, right? Not necessarily dirty politics, but there are things that Trump does that goes beyond playing within the boundaries of what we would consider to be politics.
See, when Nathan said
that,
when Nathan said that, I thought he was talking about, like, if you go dirty, you like the person that's running start putting out bad media and throwing stones. That's how I took it. So again, perception, and I think that's how he was going. Like, President Trump has put out videos. He's put out negative marketing. I think that's where Nathan is like, if they're going to put this out there, no different than what you said about Amy Acton. She needs to put these things out there. If you're a moral person, you're saying put out facts. But a Nathan would be like, no, throw some dirt at him, find his dirt, promote it, put it out there. That's what he's saying.
That's one of the things that I'm saying.
Go down in the slums with him.
I'm saying that if I get into a fist fight for you and you reach and grab a knife, I'm grabbing my knife. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of that. I don't know that that's not already happening. I mean, negative campaigning. Again, that's politics. That's what politicians do. Everybody puts out the opposition research and the negative commercials on their opponents. Everybody does that. None of that stuff is outside of the bounds. I'm particularly talking about the character issues and the things that Donald Trump has displayed that are outside of those normalized political boundaries that we're talking about. And you guys know what I'm talking about as well when we refer to that kind of stuff. The stuff that you're talking about is, again, traditional rough and tumble politics. And maybe it's just a matter of the fact that the Republicans are doing it better than the Democrats are doing.
Drop Squad, Black Not Democrat. I'm glad he's in the chat, man. That was a good dude. He made a great point. The redistricting goes by the census and population. That's why the Biden and the administration and Kamala Harris and her border czarness let all these people in the country because they wanted to flood certain areas, Democratic areas, sanctuary cities with all these immigrants so they can then gerrymander the system because it goes off the census. And if they get population living in a certain area that allows them to redraw the numbers, but it didn't work. That's why they got
it. Means to get more SNAP benefits. That's all it means. Okay. If you're not a citizen, you can't vote. And that process to become a citizen,
it has nothing to do with it. It goes off population. The redistricting goes off population from the census. If you're illegal,
that's what it normally. Terrence, that's what it normally has been, and that's why there was so much outcry. Because in these Republican-led states, they start doing it mid-decade. It's typically done at the end of every decade for the exact reason you said. That's why people had a problem with it. Because instead of doing it based upon population density, now they're doing it based upon partisanship. That's the reason why people had it.
When you're flooding cities with immigration and people are here, it's an off balance of populations. When the count ain't right, when you got more people and you're counting more people than what should really be here. I mean, the count doesn't make sense. So that gives people the opportunity, especially with my opinion, the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, as the borders was letting people in this country so they could redistrict and try to save the Democratic Party because they're losing such a base and they're so fractured. So they said, we've got to get a new base. We're losing black. We're losing. So they have to go and bring people in, and it didn't work. That's why people are self-deporting. That's why these TPSs are being expired and people are getting up out of this country because immigration and gerrymandering go hand in hand.
Yeah, none of that's true, but okay. None of that is true, but okay. Like, I don't even know where this began, but none of that is true. But okay, we can always.
I don't know that what he said is entirely. I don't know that what he said is entirely inaccurate. I mean, when you
what's accurate about what you said, Kevin? What's accurate?
Well, so what he's trying to say is that
not what he's trying to say. What he's saying.
Well, what I heard, what I thought I heard him say. This may not be what he said, but this is what I thought I heard him say. Is he was trying to make the case that because the number of congressional seats that states get is based on the census population totals that are taken every 10 years, which includes legalized citizens and illegal citizens. They're all calculated.
They're not illegal, they might be undocumented.
What's that? Well, undocumented, whatever, unauthorized immigrants, whatever, who's ever in the country. That is what determines that population number determines how many seats of representatives you get in Congress. Now Congress is capped at 435 seats, but depending on population shifts, some areas can either gain seats or lose seats based on the population during redistrict drawing. So I think that's what
that's exactly
trying to account for.
And if they're trying to discredit that, that's just bad politics and immature thinking on yourself. If you get 10 people, if you're going to take a census of 10 people in a room, you're going to say there's 10 people in this room. You're not going to say there's 6 Americans and 4 immigrants. You're going to count 10 people and report that. So to the people that you report it to, that's basic. The way it's going. I mean, y'all can look into it and say it's not accurate or whatever you want to say, but that the congressional seats are based on population size. And when you're going to get the census reports and they're going house to house, they're not saying how many legal people live here. They're saying how many people live in this household. They're saying
That's
10.
true.
10 people.
That's true.
Then they're going about their business. They're not saying how many people are illegal, how many people are this. So you can discredit, but that's whenever like Kevin lauded in the chat. That just shows your political immaturity if you're just not really to look at the facts of how censuses are collected and how they are used in political Congress, redistricting a line, and whoever has the power, which happens to be the Republican Party, they're going to make the rules.
So he is correct about that. When they take the census, they count everybody, whether you are unauthorized, whether you're a temporary person here, whether you're a green card holder, or whether you're an American citizen. You all get counted in the census, and those numbers are used to determine congressional representation. That is correct.
Yes, that is
I
correct.
think y'all all finally agreed on something.
And that is correct. And
That's good.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
That's good.
oh yeah, I mean that's
I
correct.
never heard y'all all agree on something, so I'm excited.
But immigrants ain't your problem, Terrence. Immigrants ain't never did anything to you. That ain't your problem.
Okay, that's your opinion.
That you don't have no problem that you can directly connect back to any immigrants, whether they are citizens, non-citizens, none.
Okay. But when we're on here talking about things, we're talking about reasons why Democrats lose elections, reasons why the gerrymandering things occur. And it has nothing to do with my personal feelings. I'm just interjecting my thought process on how I perceive things. So you might be right.
Democrats win a lot of elections too. I think there's this narrative out there that's like Democrats lose all the time. Not necessarily true. I mean, yes, you guys have had a good run, but you guys forget there was 8 straight years where Democrats was running the White House and they had reasonable. I mean, there's cycles. This country goes through cycles of party dominance. Right now, the GOP is running things. Under Trump, they've been able to control things, for 8 out of the last 12 years, and there'll be a cycle where Democrats are going to be on top. Like that's the thing that I was trying to say, like in the last podcast, where sometimes we buy into this doom and gloom narrative that the democracy is ending and all of this kind of stuff. Like it or not, whatever you think about America, this country is resilient. The people are resilient, and it's never going to be. You want to try to compare it to Germany and some of these other places. I say, just because something is similar, don't mean it's the same.
I'm glad you listen now, Kevin. Too. I mean, to put I'm glad you went through the proper process and did it the right way, Bub. I'm glad. I mean, I'm proud to welcome to the US of A.
Yeah, he was proud about that. He called it a show and everything, man, when he became a U.S. citizen. And Kevin's a great example of why we need more immigrants. Came over here working hard, building stuff, building for his family. Now he's a U.S. citizen, paying taxes, contributing. All of his genes is going right back into Americana. That's the way it's supposed to be. So I'm not worried about immigrants coming over here because let them come. So what? If we all competing, we compete. Simple as that. But some people, they want to try to stack the deck because they don't really want to compete. They want to try to remove all the competition so just that them and their family and people that look like them win. I thought America was about competition. So if immigrants come over here and they want to get into the rat race of capitalism and start building a business or go to school, great. Beautiful. Come on in here. Got no problem. I love it.
Assimilate. If you're going to come to the United States of America, come to assimilate to what's been going on since 1800s. Come and assimilate. Don't come in over and say we're a part of this and then still flying your flag of your home country or Nah, man, assimilate. I get what you're saying. Come over here, do the right thing, follow the laws of the land, follow the laws of the land. Don't come over here and be lawless. You're saying, yeah, come on over. Bring your crap people over into our country. I absolutely disagree with that. If you're going to come over here and be a productive part of our citizen society.
Well, they are.
We've got enough American citizens that need addressed and they need assistance and they need our attention. Black America, foundational Black America needs our attention more than these immigrants over here that coming in our country, going at us, deliberately trying to undermine us in corporate settings, in other places. And the gig is up.
Here's what I want to say.
You my brother. Now that they are showing that they are not on the same page as us, that's when we need to delineate and say, hey, we are different.
So Terrence, here's where you're gonna get eaten alive in the chat. I know Black Lion already been tearing us up, but this is one where I really know you're gonna get eaten alive, because what you just suggested is the same thing that white Americans say about Black Americans. Why can't you just be an American? Why you gotta have Kwanzaa, and why you gotta have the NAACP awards and all of these different things? Why you gotta be flying such and such a flag? Why you always talking about Africa? This, that. You don't have that expectation of Black people to abandon their culture because they're in the United States, but you would suggest that any immigrant who comes over here should do that. Look, I agree. Let me finish my point. I agree that if you come to America and you want to be a citizen here, that you have to adapt to the rules and the norms of the culture, learn English, be able to work in society. Yes, you absolutely should have to do that. Every immigrant that's come over here, I think, actually share those ideals and want to do that. Most immigrants who come into this country do exactly what you said they should do. They do assimilate. A lot of them do put aside their culture and try to quote unquote assimilate into American culture. They are, like it or not, what you want to say about the Haitians, they were being productive members of the society. They had jobs. They were working. They weren't lazy dregs and drains on Springfield. They actually lifted that community up by their presence there. So everything that you say about immigrants, most immigrants who come to this country already do. That is a narrative that is just absolutely not true.
But okay. I'm talking about 1865 and after. If your family hasn't participated in these civil wars, I'm talking 1865. Personal experience. My great grandmother was born in 1888. I've been able to meet her. I know that my family has been here before then. Then you got these 1920 people that come over on Ellis Island. I'm talking about them too. I'm not just talking about the most of the people that talk that ignorance that you were just talking about, Kevin, about all that kind of stuff. That's just pure ignorance. And those people are the same people who families came over here in the 1920s through the Great Immigration. They the same way, but they have assimilated to the culture of the colonists, so to speak. But I'm saying this: when is Black people going to stand up for ourselves? I'm talking about people who can trace our lineage back to the 1865. You got grandparents. I'm talking about we've overcome the slavery. We've overcome the Civil War. We've overcome the American Revolution. We've overcome all this stuff to still be in 2026, having to compete with people who look like us but don't have our best interest in mind. When are we going to stand up for ourselves?
Well, let me ask you this: why should the immigrants have Black people's interest in mind? Well, explain that to me. Why should they be any more concerned about you than you are about them?
Because when they come over here, they get to walk off our plight of being a Black American and the African American. So then they automatically get to us.
How do they do that? How do they walk off Black
PPI and affirmative action and all that kind of stuff? They can walk into these spaces that my grandmother, my great grandmother, my sisters had to walk into. They come over here and get those same rights that they do. And then when they get over here, they're like, "Oh yeah, we did that on purpose because y'all."
Terrence, let me ask you this. this, because you're mad at the wrong people. This is where your logic, if you want to follow your logic, you mad at the wrong people. So let's just say you're saying that these immigrants come over here and they're getting the DEI and all this other stuff. So that means somebody got to be giving it to them. Somebody got to be giving it
That's
to them.
what I'm saying, Kevin. That's what I'm saying.
Wait a minute. Let me finish my point. So why are you so wait a minute. So why are you mad? So why are you mad at the immigrant instead of the individuals who are giving the immigrants your stuff?
He is the Democrats. That's why he a Republican.
No, first of all, the Democrats ain't running corporate America.
Look at any of them, they give a platform. If they give a platform to speak for the black people of the Black America and the Democratic Party, none of them can trace their lineage from both their parents back to slavery. It's always somebody. Look at the Joy Reids. Look at the Barack Obamas. Look at the Roland Martins. Look at even the Candace Owens. The people that they give the platform don't have that foundational black blood. They've always got this. Either they're this.
What about all the black people? You name 4 or 5 people. What about all of the other black people over the years who've held those same positions? What about the Byron Pittses of the world? What about the Clarence Pages of the world who come from my hometown? Like, these might not be names that you know because you're only picking and choosing who you want to based on whatever narrative that you want to have. But what about the Stephen A. Smiths? What about all of these other black people who are in prominent positions and who have prominent platforms? You want to name 4 or 5 people with immigrant backgrounds that you want to hold up there, but there are literally dozens, if not hundreds, of other black people.
I'm talking about the political sphere. I'm talking about the political sphere that get to write legislation. How come they get to write legislation for our plight?
So you're saying that there are no quote unquote chattel slavery black people in Congress passing legislation? I know you ain't saying that.
The overwhelming majority have some kind of not to go back to regress, but look at Vivek Ramaswamy. He is the exact same kind of. If he was black, they would love Vivek Ramaswamy. If he was black in the rich Democratic Party, black. Oh my God! But I'm not saying he's always black.
Democrats love Democrats. Wow! Breaking news: water is wet. Like what kind of point is that even?
You're trying to go away from my point. You're trying to take away from my point, Kevin, that as black foundational Americans, we should really think about the people who we put up in leadership to represent us whenever the people are coming over, like the Haitians are coming over and they're making things uncomfortable, instead of saying, oh yeah, come on over, my brother, and having open arms, we should have our guard up and treat them with the same respect and regard as they treat us. Make them take a step forward toward us, and then we take a step forward toward them. Instead of them coming to our country and we opening up the doors and they get to experience the same equality that our ancestors fought for. The same equality.
I guess from a standpoint from even what he's talking about, like if you look at the black community, look at the grocery stores in our community. They're held by immigrants too. Nail salons, things such as that. So it's I can get where he's coming from, and we have to fight tooth and nail. Like if you look at, my building was built in Avondale. I saw the black grocery store go up, and I understand there was some difficulties getting that done, but there was a grocery store right across the street. They went up, and they was running quick, quicker. They selling stuff at a higher price. So I'm questioning that, where did they go to get through these? And this is locally. So how did they get their approvals and permits quicker than over here where we have to struggle and prove everything tooth and nail? So I think that's kind of what he's talking about too. Well, they are getting some passes. There are some passes being made, and there is still a struggle and a dynamic within the business world, within the government for us as people with brown skin to move our situation. And so I think I do agree with what he's saying. If you're gonna fight and we're gonna put if y'all gonna say the Democratic Party is for Black people, then why aren't you fighting just as hard to get this legislation done? Even when I ran, as a Republican, it was like, well, you can't bring out Black policies, and you can't say this and you can't say that. It's pushed on both sides. So it's like there's this machine, and they have a way of doing things, and I think that it is going to always be a pressure point when it comes to Black and brown people. And
here's the problem. Let me say this.
And no matter how much we move the needle, they continue.
Can we normalize?
Well, let me say this. This is the problem that we have here. First of all, there's a lot of unknowns. So the first thing that I would say is, okay, you raise a good point. The question is, how are they able to get business loans or whatever and get their businesses established, and Black people are not? That's a good question. That's a local question. Wait a minute. That's a local question. And this is what I say about the questions that we need to be asking and what people need to be doing, because we don't know what the situations are. Maybe they come in with a lot of money. Maybe these immigrants come in with a lot of money that they've saved up, and they're in a great financial position to get bank loans. Maybe there are grants and things that are available for them that we don't know about. I don't know all of the particulars behind how that happens. But what I would say is you still in this country have a lot of Black people who start their own businesses and who do different things. It may not be a grocery store or whatever, but we know that there has traditionally been discrimination in the banking and loan industry, access to capital for Black people, and that existed even before the conversation that you want to have with immigrants. So my thing is this: if we got a problem in Cincinnati, where we have, how many Black people do we have on Cincinnati City Council?
All of them? No.
I mean, we got a good number of Black people.
I think it's 5.
Yeah. So we got a good number of Black people on Cincinnati City Council who have the ability to legislate, hand out budget dollars, this, that, or whatever, that if that is a situation where encouraging and creating more Black businesses and giving Blacks access to capital, that's something that, we ought to be able to do when we have majority control, or at least a good number of folks who are in a position to impact that in some way. Now, I know there are some challenges to where maybe legally you can't say, because of discrimination laws and stuff like that, that you can't say, hey, we're just going to set this money aside for Black businesses. But I do know there used to be minority ownership business loans and stuff like that. Unfortunately, what you get sometimes is
the Africans dipping in there taking those loans. You get them taking those loans, Kevin. That's what I'm saying.
But Terrence, legally you can't say, you have to call it
Black American foundational people's best interest in heart. That's what I'm saying. That was my whole point. Instead of us putting these tethers in here, they come over here and get to use our struggle. We need to put people in there that are going to, like you said, if you guys got a majority of black people in city council in Cincinnati, there is no reason why the foundational Black Americans in Cincinnati shouldn't be at their doorstep demanding some of those tax dollars go to Black Americans. Foundational Black Americans. They should have $500,000. They should have 50,000. They could call it whatever they want to call it, but just have some kind of Black dollars allocated to Black things only. Black people only.
Please stop. Go do that in Kentucky. Go back to the Republican
Party. You don't think I would? You don't think that I do? You don't think that the conversations that I had? Conversations that I have. Oh, come on.
Go back to the
Ed Galleron came to my barbershop. You don't think I had a conversation with him about African immigrants? You don't think I had a conversation with him about African immigrants?
Terrence, let Nathan get in because we can't hear.
Go back to Ed Galleron and your buddies, and Rosemary, your buddies here in Ohio, and you tell them to set aside and allocate millions of dollars for foundational Black Americans, and you ain't gonna get it.
I will tell you this. Hold on. I will say this. I just had a conversation with Eric Conroy.
I want to hear it.
And asked him to earmark funds to Avondale. So again, I am at these tables having the conversation with
Black Americans. And you go ask your Republican buddies to allocate money for foundational Black Americans, like he said, and you're not gonna get it because that's against their priorities. They don't believe in that. They think it's reverse discrimination.
They're going to hear it.
You have to vote on the right person, and you have to present it as though it's a benefit for the party, and it's a benefit for the community.
As soon as you say it's for foundational Black Americans, you ain't going to get it.
In order for the Republican Party to take a hold of it, there is a way that you have to present it for the Republican Party.
You can't say foundational Black Americans, can you?
No, but what you can say is when there are businesses being made and there are dollars in the community, it will benefit, and this is the return on investment for the Republican Party and for your government locally and state and federally. You have to present it in a certain way that just doesn't make it look like handouts, and I know that from firsthand.
Here's the reality. Here's the reality of what a lot of government.
When you're talking about everyday Americans, it's a handout. But Elon Musk built his empire off of federal subsidies, off of tax dollars. Yes. That wasn't a handout. So here's the other thing I would say is we need to normalize minding our own business. Who cares who's opening up other grocery stores? It's not your business.
Nathan, come on, that mentality doesn't make sense.
They tell people in track and field that you should run your race. Keep your eyes on your lane and run your race, because when you start turning your head to the side, you lose speed. So run your race. And if people really cared about how these so-called foreigners or whatever start these businesses, if you really care and you not hating, you know what you do? You ask them. You go over and ask them, hey, sir, Mr. Whatever, how'd you start this business? I'm interested in doing it. But sitting around hating on them and how they get it is unproductive.
You have a right to ask those questions. You have a right to ask those questions.
Present this the correct way.
And me bringing it up wasn't about hate. My thing is, how do we add to this? I mean, I brought it up from I brought it up from a perspective too of whenever whenever a certain Democrat and okay, we'll look at it from a construction perspective. Why is it that Black guys got to have all these certifications, yet you show up on construction sites and you have all of these Hispanics, etc., that don't speak English? They don't need all these certifications. They don't have to go through all these pipelines. There's a cost savings. So again, at the detriment of certain people being able to get jobs.
But how do you know that?
They are crushing our housing market. I'm not talking about jobs. I'm also talking about the housing market of being able to house all of these immigrants. That is the greatest problem that we have with allowing all of these immigrants to come over.
Here's the thing.
Certifications on a job. How do you know that? You just drive.
They don't even speak English. So how are you getting through those classes for the certifications and you don't speak English?
Here's what it is, and this is what I said initially. Like, we make a lot of assumptions. I think there is some information mining that has to be done. I'm not saying that Rosemary is wrong, but what I'm saying is you're making an assumption not based on any kind of information. Look, here's what I'm saying is the Black person's issue in America is not the immigrant. The Black person's issue in America is systemic racism. Yeah. The reason why we do not have, in some instances, again, this is where I say you got to look at banking loans. You got to look at home loans. You got to look at access to capital. A lot of things that Black people want have historically been denied us, and we know through studies and things of that nature that have been done in the past that racism and bias play in a role of loan denials and all sorts of things. The difference between us and immigrants who come to this country is, this is why Black people got to stop comparing themselves to the immigrant and thinking that the immigrant is different, is they're not subjected to the same history of racism in this country that Black people are. It's the same reason why Jewish people could be persecuted in Europe, but when they came over here to America, it was much easier for them to, I mean, you could say that about Jews who came to this country and they were welcomed into the United States at the same time Black people were being discriminated against, right? Here they're fleeing persecution and murder in Europe. They come to America, they welcome them in open arms while Black people are still getting discriminated against and killed in this country. Yet they were welcomed in this country with open arms. Black people have a different story and a different history in this country that is never going to be the same as immigrants. So it's a waste of time for Black people to try to compare themselves to immigrants or anybody who comes into this country, because they don't look at them the same way they look at us. So your issue is not with the immigrant. Your issue is with the system of systemic racism that is pervasive in this country, that when they look at you, they don't look at you at the same way as they look at a Vivek Ramaswamy or somebody else. And they don't scrutinize their loan application in the same way they scrutinize your loan application, right? They don't evaluate your house in the same way that they evaluate his house. And that is the battle that Black people are facing. That's why I said you mad at the wrong people. Immigrants ain't the ones making the decisions. They're not the ones handing out the loans. They're not the ones giving approval and hiring on these job spaces. Y'all mad at everybody but the culprits who are enabling what you're mad about.
Kevin, I'm talking about looking at history in 100 years. The Black community has went from owning, let's just use marriage, 78% household marriage to 30% household marriage. In Black Wall Street, Tulsa, all these neighborhoods that every Black community had in the 1920s that in 2026 are non-existent now. So that being said, we should be able to, that history, we can go back to the history and say, in Tulsa, we had our own banks, doctor's office, hotels, airplanes, airports, everything. Black people are capable of doing our own thing. We don't need any help from anybody else. So
Wakanda.
So those, we should at least get the opportunity to have federal dollars go to at least some kind of legislation. And you mentioned the Cincinnati having a majority Democratic Black city council. They have the ability to change history, start writing legislation, just like Alicia Reese got the Black Walk of Fame, which is world renowned now. Why can't Cincinnati be known for having, I don't know if there's any other city like that. Now, who cares? Let's talk about Cincinnati and what they do have in the Democratic Party right now. The ability to write legislation and take funds and put them toward Black things. You didn't think when Alicia Reese made the Black Walk of Fame down there, I know she had adversity to go through, but I'm sure she had less people on board with that's what I don't understand. Y'all got the ability to do all this kind of stuff, and then there's nothing. But whenever I start talking about it on a Republican issue and say, this is what Republicans and foundational Black Republicans would do, it's like, no, that doesn't.
It ain't about what you would do, Terrence. It's about what you can get done. And to Nathan's point, and Rosemary kind of said it. I'm gonna put it in layman's terms. Rosemary said they told her, "Hey, don't be coming with that Black stuff." You know what I'm saying? With the policy stuff, because it ain't gonna fly. It can't fly in a party that's anti-DEI. You're not going to get Black policy to fly in a party that says we're not going to do specialized catering to races. How can the Republican Party say it any more clear than what they said? We're not into this identity politics stuff. We're not into separating things out for different races. We're all Americans, right? But we know that that's BS, because when they say all Americans and Black people step up to the table, they get none to crumbs, right? They get none to crumbs. And that's why I say, you talk all of this stuff about all Black Republicans and all of this, but you can't point to a single thing, a single policy that is improving the situation for Black America. You can get frustrated with Democrats. You can say that they ain't done enough, but at least you can at least point to some things that they've done.
No tax on tips.
No tax on tips. No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. No tax on Social Security.
No tax on overtime, which really is tax on overtime.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God, this is too much fun. I'm loving Rosemary. You know what I'm loving about Rosemary is she ain't changing. Black female Republican, she Black female Republican. She gonna stand on. I love it. I love that. So I'm looking forward to her being on the panel. We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Terrence, I'm glad you brought this subject up, because I do think it is. Well, first of all, I kind of feel like this. as Black people, we gotta, I said this, we gotta save ourselves. We gotta start making moves for ourselves. Part of our challenge is, as we're fighting for equal representation from government, our fair share, we also gotta make moves. And I say we have the wherewithal within our communities to be able to get back to some economic empowerment. When you look back in the day and you talk about Black Wall Street and all of that kind of stuff, that was created not because white folks was buying Black people's products. It's because we supported each other in the stores that we own. We shopped at each other's stores. We ate at each other's restaurants. The people who worked on our homes and did our stuff were Black, right? It ain't like white folks have ever patronized Black businesses in high numbers. I mean, I think we came up on this before. If you own a Black restaurant, if you own a Black anything in Cincinnati, and it's Black, it caters to Black things, I would love to know what percentage of your clientele is Caucasian. I would venture to say that if you own a Black-owned business, particularly if it caters to products and content, food per se, that would be considered quote unquote cultural, I guarantee that you have a very small percentage of your customer base that is Caucasian. Barbering might be one small example, because you might be able to get, a lot of people might come to different Black barbers to get their hair cut. Everybody got to get their hair cut.
So the AI comes along.
But we don't patronize our own businesses as much as we should and support that and keep the money within community. You want to talk about what immigrants do? They keep their money self-contained in their community. Go to the little Mexican restaurant or the Mexican grocery. Who you see up in there shopping and buying stuff? Their community, right?
I'm glad I don't think like that. That's weak thinking. Sitting around worried about what the next man got. Looking out your window like how he got that car.
I'm not saying looking at what the next man got, Nathan. I'm saying when you look at, no, Nathan, that's a fool's thought process, because we all look at success and try to see what we can learn from the success of what somebody else is doing. So it's not trying to be in the immigrants community's business. It's saying, looking at what the business model they got, is looking at what business model they got and what's working, and what can we glean from that?
It's none of that. Smart people are, but smart people are not sitting around verbally talking about immigrants as some kind of negative. Smart people, you're right, are assessing it. How is it a negative to be an American born?
How is it a negative to say, hey, this is what immigrant communities are doing? They're supporting their own. They're keeping their money in their community. How is that a negative?
How is what a negative?
No, what I just said. How is looking at immigrant communities and saying, hey, this is how they're running their business. They're supporting each other. They're keeping their monies within their communities. How is that a negative?
You didn't hear what I said. What I said is that smart people will analyze business models and try to figure out something on their own. But smart people are not on the internet talking about how they're anti-immigrant. They're not doing that, because they're looking at it from a business profile. These people in their feelings, sitting around talking about immigrants all the time, they're not. They're just feeling. They're just reacting emotionally. They're not trying to figure out what the business plan is. They're just simply saying, I'm an American. I should have favoritism. How they come over here and live a life and build these things that I want to do. And what I would say is that instead of sitting around hating, they're probably building. So the time that you're hating and wondering and watching Fox News and getting all revved about immigrants, they are working. Like you said, they're coalescing as a family, all living in a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, stacking their chips. They're willing to do whatever it takes to get there. That's what they're doing.
Unbelievable. That's unbelievable, Nathan. I didn't understand what you said.
Fall into that. Smart people, as you said, they might assess the business model, right? From that level, like Kevin said, it's people that do that. But most of these people run around on Fox News talking about immigrants. They ain't doing that. They're just mad because the immigrant got a Lexus and they don't. Or an immigrant got a business and they don't.
I got to call on that one, Nate, because if you want to open up a lemonade stand, and you're like,
right.
And you're having, and people are like, you can't open up a lemonade stand, so every barrier that you can, and then an immigrant comes over and open up a lemonade stand right on the same block as you wanted to open up a lemonade stand, you're not going to have nothing to agree with. That's what you exactly just said. You're pocket watching. Why you worried about what the next person's doing, whenever you just because you want to do something and you're not able to do it. I'll absolutely 100%. My vote is on immigration for those simple reasons. I mean, like when it comes down to
you know what you sound like, Terrence. You know what you sound like, and this is why I say this is a dangerous, slippery slope, because this sounds very much like about what white people say about black people, right? The same type of special treatment, preferential treatment that you say immigrants get is exactly what white people say whenever the types of quote unquote handouts or assistance that you're asking for. That's what they're saying. They're saying, what do you do? Why do you deserve special treatment when I'm out here like you white man out here like you trying to open up a business? Why do you as a black man deserve special set asides or money to be able to open your business when I got to go to the bank and apply for a loan just like you do?
How'd you get that barbershop?
Tip money.
How'd you get that barbershop?
Tip money, and it's my son, so I don't know. You gotta ask him. I work for my son. It ain't my barber.
Somebody on the outside looking in might be looking at you like, how you do that? And you did it through some hard work, debt, finance, the old-fashioned way. You made it happen. You went in debt. That's how they're doing it. It's not rocket science. For the same people who claim that somehow immigrants are getting something that we're not, if you ask them, okay, well, show me what they got. Show me the government program that's just for Haitians and not for foundational Black Americans. They can never do it because it don't exist.
When the temporary you get to go job, they get a job. They need jobs in Springfield, and you get a temporary protection status, and they bring you over by the thousands and
Terrence, let me ask you this:
the foundational Black Americans could be having if you instead
no, Terrence. Here's what you got. This is, and again, you got to go back and look at that whole story. Now, if you want to tell me that there were Black people in Springfield who tried to get those jobs in Springfield that the Haitians got, and they were being rejected. If you told me that that's what was happening, if Black people was trying to get those jobs and they was like, nah, we ain't got no jobs for you, or you're not qualified to get the job. And then they was bringing a whole bunch of Haitians over here and then giving them those jobs, I might say that you might have a bit of an argument there where I would raise my eyebrows to say, why weren't these Black people good enough to get those jobs that you're giving to the Haitians? They applied for them. They tried to get them. But from everything that I've heard reported on that has not been the case. What I heard is they did not have the people to be able to fill those jobs who wanted those jobs. Right. And they couldn't get people to do those jobs. And so they got the Haitians in there to do the job. So we got to stop this stuff. Like, if there are jobs out there and Black people ain't going for them, that's on Black people. Like, there's a certain element of this thing where here's what I agree with to some degree is that everybody got to make a determination in their mind of what they going to go for. And it ain't never going to be easy. I don't think it's easy whether you white, whether you Black, or whatever. As Nathan said, you're going to have to put in the work. But if you have a mind to try to create a business for yourself or go for a job or whatever, you got to go for that. You can't just be sitting back hating on other people and you ain't made no effort to try to put yourself in a position to win. Because my experience has been that if you put yourself out there, you work hard, you're willing to learn, you watch what people who are winning, who are doing what you want to do that, ask them questions. As Nathan said, how did you get this? How did you get there? And then you put in the work. And yes, it might require you to invest something in yourself, some money in yourself. If you ain't got the money, then you got to figure out how to come up and get the money. Look, when we started the Kings, we had a little bit of money, but we had to go out and raise money. We had to go out and convince sponsors this is worth something to get involved. You got to spend time. Nobody, and that's why I'm so proud of it. I don't say that to brag. I say that because everything we got, I had to grind for that. Wasn't nobody giving me no handouts and working, ain't no government program. The city ain't giving me money like FC Cincinnati or the Bengals or none of that. I ain't got a dime of that kind of money. It's my sweat equity, people who I've been able to get to believe in the dream, and then people who come out and support us in the games. That's how you make it happen. It's been 6 long years of trying to get to profitability, right? Like I get where FC was like, hey, we might not be profitable for 10 years, right? Before they did it in less than that. But that's what the business landscape is. And then you got to be able to survive the economy and all that. We got hit by COVID our first year. Stuff happens, you know what I mean? But we have to begin to get out of this mindset of can't do and move into can do and action,
Right.
and figure out what the game plan is. Quit, to Nathan's point, quit worrying about it. I ain't thought about immigrants one time. And
Not once.
Nothing that I've ever done. What I do think about is, how do I get to where I want to go, and who can help me get there, and who got the mind frame and the mentality, and who can we bring to the table that have similar vision, right? That can help make this happen. And that's what I'm saying. There are enough people like that in the Black community. I know because I've experienced it, but we just got to get more of that going, and less out of this. Yes, systemic racism is real. I believe that. I say all the time that if I was so-and-so, it would be easier for me to get some dollars than what it is now. If I had a different skin complexion, if I had a different last name that curry favor in Cincinnati, the money would rein in on what I'm trying to do. I ain't got that, but that don't mean I still can't get what I need to do to get it done.
Absolutely.
It's a matter of your mentality.
It's
so, yes,
exactly.
The racism is always going to be front and center, but that can't be our reasoning for not rallying around each other and pursuing our dreams and what we want to do. And it might fail. I mean, it might fail, but
yeah, the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
You don't get happy, you get to pursue it. So most businesses fail. I mean, that's just what it is. So yeah, man, I'm with everything Kevin just said. I'm with it. Absolutely. I ain't sitting around worrying about what immigrants are doing, other than the fact that I want them to come to the country and, you know, have a peaceful time. People keep talking about how much money we spent. Yeah, have a good time, because you know what, Terrence?
You can't come to your
one of these anchor babies.
You can come to our country,
Terrence.
whatever. Come on.
One of these anchor babies, as people like to call them, like it's some kind of pejorative. I love it, because one of these anchor babies might create the cure for cancer, for all we know. You know what I'm saying? That might be the next genius in whatever the next field of endeavor is. I don't know. But that's what makes the country great.
Beautiful outlook. That's a beautiful outlook to take. That's a beautiful rainbows and waterfalls and rainbows and buttercups, and that's a great outlook to take. But it doesn't take away from the immediate impact that it's having on some communities. And I'll just leave it at that.
We got enough money. We got enough wealth in this country to take care of even emergency services. Yeah, I understand it's a strain. I understand it's easy for me to sit here and say, because I don't have to deal with it directly, but I understand the strain that people are dealing with, the culture class. I get it, but these are growing pains. That's all it is, growing pains. And people have politicized growing pains to make it seem like immigrants are like some kind of scourge that we have to eradicate. And I just don't believe it one bit. I don't believe it, not even a little bit.
That's a good point.
You know what it is, Nathan? Because you're 100% right. There were growing pains when, when the Italians came here. There were growing pains when, Asian Americans came here. There's always been that culture clash in this country of people who are from someplace else who are coming into America. That type of cultural acclimation takes years, and we forget about that. Like, we look at history like,
we've been here, Kevin.
Huh?
We've been here. Why should someone who assimilate? Why does somebody who is not born? Even I'm talking about the Ellis Island people that got here in the 1920s. Why are they ahead of Black Americans and we've been here?
You know why? You know why they're ahead? You
know why they're ahead of all Black Americans?
You know what, Terrence? You know the answer to that which you already asked. Why are they ahead of Black Americans? Well, first of all, let's just go back and look through history. One, slavery. Didn't have to go through that. When we got out of slavery, wait a minute, let me finish, brother. When we got out of slavery, we were promised 40 acres and a mule. Did we get that? Nope. No, we didn't. Why? Because of racist policy that made sure that that didn't happen. Then when we went through Reconstruction, where we actually did get some seats in Congress and a whole bunch of other things, you know what they did in response to Reconstruction? They came up with Jim Crow laws and a whole bunch of other things and burned down black businesses and black homes. That set black people back. And then the next thing you know, you come out of 400 years of slavery, and now you're dealing with what? 100 years, what? Almost 100 years of Jim Crow, 50, 60 years of Jim Crow, whatever it is, of legalized segregation, which I say is the greatest DEI program of all time. I want to say that white men in this country were the originators of DEI. The first DEI program, which was to say, you can't compete with us. There is no better DEI program than to exclude people from an economy and a system that says, I don't have to compete with you at all because I'm not going to allow you to even compete with me. You stay over here in your little area. And then if I even feel like your little area is growing up bigger than ours, we'll just burn it down and hang you. How about that? You know what I'm saying? So when you look at the history of what black people in this country have been through, it is not because of the immigrant. It is because of systemic and historical racism in this country that has held black people back from the beginning. Immigrants ain't do that to you.
But this is the new
the wrong people.
This could be the new Jim Crow that they're sneaking right in under our face. And then when people bring it up, to even just recognize it. It's like, oh, we can't do that because we got to be sensitive to the plight of the immigrants coming in here, assimilating or taking, hijacking the plight of everything that you just mentioned before. Everything. They get to come over here and off of the blood, sweat, and tears of our ancestors get to reap the benefits. And when they do, they don't say, oh yeah, we all working together, kumbaya, my brother. They'll be like, oh, you think I'm an African booty scratcher? I think you're a unkata. It's no, and then they're sending money back to their home country to bring more people up. They're not helping foundational black Americans, and we're not helping ourselves. I'm saying we need to help ourselves.
They're paying taxes. They're helping us.
You're missing the point. Yeah, I think you're probably doing this on purpose.
No, I think you're missing the point. You said they're not helping us. When undocumented people come over here and they're not citizens, they pay into Social Security. They pay via federal taxes and also state and local taxes into the very services that foundational black Americans get something out of, and they can't even get anything out of it. So I'm just giving you a point. I mean, that's just the truth. They pay programs that American citizens benefit from that they can't even get anything out of.
In the 1920s, we were running laps over them. We didn't have and we would do it again if we would just have the opportunity. If we would do the same thing again that we did in the 1920s, maybe have a new Reconstruction bill that addresses reparations and things that could do with the black community.
Let me ask you this.
Do it again. We would run laps around them. We ran laps around them in education. We ran laps around them whenever they first started off. We were outperforming them in every category. Any demographic in the 1920s, after when Reconstruction would happen in Tulsa, and all these earmarks in education, we were leading. And if we would have led in education, we would have continued to lead.
Terrence, let me tell you what one of the differences is. Here's where our forefathers and foremothers are so much better than we are today. And it's our sense of entitlement. Here you got our forefathers and foremothers who had none of the advantages that we had today. They had to fight against systems that weren't just subtle, but they were in your face. And they created businesses. They educated their own kids, and they wasn't getting a damn thing from the government. And this is what I'm saying about where black people, we kind of got to reposition ourselves. Again, I didn't say don't expect anything from the government, because I agree. We need to fight for our fair share like everybody else. But we also got to recognize that in the midst of that, while you're fighting for those justices, you got to do what you got to do. How did our forefathers and foremothers, who had a fraction of the freedom and the resources that we have at our disposal today, build all of the things that you just said? showed the resiliency that they just said, educated themselves, because white folks wasn't trying to educate them. So we got all of these excuses as a people for why we're not able to get things done when our forefathers and foremothers had a fraction of what we had. But you know what they had that we don't have anymore? They had mental toughness. They had values. They had community. They had community with one another. Right? All of the things that we don't value and that we don't utilize today. And that is one of the frustrating things. Is that why I said we got to save ourselves? You know, what is the answer? Somebody asked, what is the answer to systemic racism? Bump systemic racism, right? We got to make it happen. We got to save ourselves as we fight for justice. That's all you can do, is try to fight within the politics, elect the right people, as Terry said. But as you're doing that, you cannot stand still. We got too much standing still while we waiting on government to do something for us. We got to make it happen. You muted, Nathan.
Yeah, I don't know if I believe. I've heard people say that we waiting on government. I don't think that's true at all. I don't think anybody's waiting on government.
I think too many people are. I think too many people are counting on that. And that we need more movement. We need more movement within our community.
More motion, yeah. I'll give you that. Definitely more motion, but it's a lot of motion out there that we overlook just because we don't see it on a regular basis. I mean, the people that's going to create motion is create motion. Just that they're doing it. They're not waiting for no handouts. They're not worried about how many immigrants from Haiti are here. They're not worried about that. People who create and move, they create and move. They're not asking for no permission. They just making it happen. And those people exist inside the Black community and all the communities. So
they don't know. We got to pass that down, man. We got to educate our kids on that too, though, man. I mean, it's like
people are.
Yeah, but more. I'm saying more. We got too many. We got too many that's slipping through the cracks. Look, I know you can't save everybody. You're not going to save everybody. But I'm saying when we talk about world-class education, I mean, I know you believe in that, Nathan, because we talk about it all. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about world-class education includes teaching our kids how to make legal moves, right? Not just street moves. Because look, I mean, let's just face it. You got some young people that's making some street moves that if they could apply that to legitimate business, it translates.
Exactly.
It translates.
But it's always been in all communities, you're always going to have some people that you can't reach. There's always going to be people that slip through the cracks. You try to do your best, try to be there for them when you can be, offer them a way out. Some people are going to take it, some people not. Yeah, but I don't think we should judge the community based upon, some of this low-hanging fruit in terms of these examples. There's a lot of good people in all the communities doing something. So I just stuck on Terrace, man. Terrace is really committed to this whole anti-immigrant thing. I can really feel your passion. And, hopefully we just continue the conversation, as the stories come up. I just remain unconvinced. I don't think that immigrants are a problem in this country in any way whatsoever. I don't believe it. I just don't think that's how human beings work in a society. Like I said, we could be deporting the next Albert Einstein or the next Miles Davis or the next somebody great that can create something that could transform humanity. We don't know, and if people want to come over here and be American, they don't have to, if non-white immigrants came to America and they gave Black people props, that's great. But if non-white citizens or immigrants come here and they got a problem with African Americans, I ain't worried about it. So what? I'm going to coalesce and work with the ones that want to work with me. You don't want to work with me? Okay. And see, why isn't that good enough? Why do we have to paint the entire all immigrants feel this way? It's just not true. It's just not true. I've met immigrants who are grateful for Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement. And they talk about it.
Of course, they get to come over here and have comfort. They get to come over here to the country and all the pain, all the blood, all the sweat, all the tears. They get to come over here and experience that stuff with impunity.
Great. Right, because civil liberties, freedom should be enjoyed.
Well, we can't do that in their country. We can't go to their country and go over there and be like, we go because
You could go to Mexico right now.
I'm talking about Africa. I can't go to Africa right now and live the way that I live right now.
But do you want to go to Africa? Because if you don't want to go, then it's a mute conversation.
Well, I mean, I want to visit. I don't want to live there, but I'm just saying.
Here's why that's such a bad argument. And I say this because other places aren't America. And what I say by that is other places are not democratic republics. Other places don't run their governments the same way that the United States does. So you can't say, oh, I can't go to some of these countries where if you're not a citizen, you can't own land there. Those are not the rules in the United States of America. That's not what the United States of America puts itself out there to be. That's not what it has historically sort of stood for. So part of this notion of freedom, pursuit of happiness, all of that is this notion that if you come here and you become a citizen in this country or whatever, you have the rights and privileges of everybody else. I get that it ain't the same way in every country because every country is not America. That's why America always gets to stand up and say, hey, we're this shining city on the hill and all that, because we don't run our country, supposedly, the way some of these other countries run their thing. And that's what I said a couple podcasts ago. This is where we're at, Nathan, is that you have a segment of the population now that no longer believes that the United States should be what it has always claimed to be. And that is where we are right now. There are people who want, just like the birthright citizenship, there are people who are saying, I no longer agree with what the founders said this country should be. And I want it to be something else. And that is the battle that we got going on right now in this country. But everybody wants something different. Terrence wants something for black people, but the party that he's a part of wants to make this a white America again, right? Like that's what they want. You can shake your head.
We've been giving them the vote for the past 60 years, and you don't get it. If I was a Democrat, this would be y'all are in power and still don't get nothing. I'd rather be a Republican.
That's a lie. What you just said is a lie.
If the majority of the vote, we give them overwhelmingly give them our vote for the amount of we give their vote to the rate of return, the ROI doesn't even equal out to be 8%, 10% at vote. Oh my goodness. You can't think of anything that has directly benefited the things that programming and reparations. I can't believe, and then you guys give someone like Jasmine Crockett, pass it over to her to write. Every year, the Democratic caucus, the Black caucus talks about, oh, we're going to reintroduce the bill to do studies on reparations, and that's some big earmark for them every year, and it gets turned down every year. That's ridiculous.
You know what's ridiculous to me, and it could just be me, maybe I'm hearing it wrong, but I've heard you speak about DEI in a positive way. And you're talking about reparations, like this is something that needs to happen, but you've aligned yourself with a political party that is diametrically opposed to any of that. That's the exact opposite of their platform, and you voted for them. So how does those two things exist? How are you for these things, but you also vote for a party that's against those things?
I don't believe that they're against those things any more or any less than the Democratic Party.
Terrence, that's just not it. Terrence, you know what? See, when you make statements like that, Terrence.
Do you don't think the Democratic Party is against reparations? If every year the Black Democratic caucus presents it and they shoot it down,
Terrence, you go to extremes. You pick your issues. So this is what I'll continue to stand on and what I'll continue to say, and this is why your argument is so nonsensical. Is that I'm with you if you want to say, and I said this many times, that if you're looking at dollar for dollar, vote for vote, return on investment, what Black people have invested in the Democratic Party in recent years, have we gotten a one-to-one return on that? Absolutely not. But to say that Black people voting for the Democratic Party have gotten nothing is a lie. It's a falsity. It's an inaccuracy. Because I can, as I did on a previous podcast, I can go down a list of policy things that have been done that have directly benefited Black people that have been Democratic policy. You cannot find within Republican policy that's been passed under the Trump administration, the Bush administration, the George H.W. Bush administration, certainly and sure as hell not the Ronald Reagan administration, where there has been policy that's been put forward that has been specifically for and directed toward the Black community that has benefited them. Now, again, I came up with my short list last time. I could have made it longer, but I will challenge any Black Republican to show me that list. And so you're dealing with bad logic if you come to the table and say, I'm going to support a party that has done nothing for me and my people.
I can think of something.
Except for free slaves. I don't.
Yeah, you go back. Recent. I said recent, and I said this in my commentary last time. Don't go back to Abraham Lincoln. If you got to go back to Abraham Lincoln for what the Republicans have done for Black people, that's a problem in and of itself.
You said Abraham Lincoln.
You got to go back to Lincoln.
No tax on overtime. No tax on overtime.
Man, I can't win, man. I can't win.
No tax on overtime. Man, this is hilarious. I got to move on, guys. I got some things I got to do. And we're over 3 hours, so way over time. I'm enjoying the conversation, though, man. I appreciate both you guys. Fridays,
Sarah, bring me my list, brother. Bring me my list, man. You got time because you ain't gonna be on Friday.
Man.
You got till next Tuesday, man. Do your research. I want you. Don't bring me Tim Scott's empowerment zones or whatever it is. Don't bring me that. Bring me something. Hey, I'll give you that. That's like the free square on the bingo card. I'll even give you that.
Donald Trump defunded it.
2 minutes.
Well, there you go.
I'm gonna need 2 minutes. That's it.
Okay, come with your list, and it has to directly benefit Black people. It can't be.
Do some research and come back in 2 minutes. I mean,
No. I need to do some extensive research where I can.
Oh, you said 2 minutes. Okay, I thought you only need 2 minutes to get prepared. That's an impossible. She said short show today. Yeah, short show. That's an impossible task. I mean, it's just not there, and that's why I said. I mean, you're talking DEI and this, but you aligned yourself with a party that is killing DEI all through the federal government, and they're putting as much pressure on private businesses and universities to kill DEI, but you're for DEI. And there is nothing about this administration in any way whatsoever that suggests that they are pro-reparations. In fact, it's the opposite of it. Like the EEOC now has been looking for white men for lawsuits alleging that white men have been, the victims of reverse discrimination so they can get paid. So there is no examples for you. You can spend 3,000 years. There's nothing for you to find.
And here's my problem with brothers who I'm fine if you say, hey, man, I'm tired of the Democrats. I don't want to be with the Democrats.
Okay, I get
just like I can get with that if you want to say that. But don't act like you going to Republicans is an upgrade. I would have had more respect for you if you like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna vote for Cornel West. You know what I'm saying? He running as a third. Like I could respect y'all. I could respect y'all Afrocentric brothers who don't like the Democrats. I would respect you more if you was like, you know what? I ain't giving my vote to Trump. I'm gonna give it to pro-Black Cornel West. You know what I'm saying? Brother rocking the afro. He always talking about, the Black stuff. That. You got the same. But y'all ain't even got y'all. This is why I talk about the fraudulency of y'all pro-Black brothers who want to vote Republican. Man, look, miss me with that stuff, man. You can't come pro-Black. That's like saying I'm anti-slavery, but I'm voting for the massa.
It
makes absolutely no sense. And I don't know how your brain works, that somehow or another it makes sense to you in your own mind. That's probably worth some type of psychological experiment and research to figure out how y'all pro-Black brothers who vote Republican, it makes absolutely no sense.
Hey, listen, on Friday, it should be a really good show. We got Rosemary coming back, me and Kevin, Phil. We also got Alandis coming through and Tamaya. So I'm expecting fireworks. I'm going to be stirring the pot as much as possible on Friday to get some good conversation and debate for the audience. So check back for that. Should be a good conversation. And Terrence, if you get free, step on in.
Yep, come on through with that list, man. Them Afrocentric policies that we getting out of the
You know
GOP.
what
I can't wait to hear those. Hey man, I might want to be Republican too after I see
Me
after
too.
I see the list. I want to be converted.
Chat
Right.
you can come up with a whole bunch of, they can spin anything, they can frame it any way they want to. So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a list. I'm gonna have a list. So, it's gonna be hard to refute the list that I bring. I'm just gonna ask for 2 minutes of uninterrupted so I can just present.
Well, let me say this. Let me ask this too. If you got the policy, one, is it still in effect? And if there's any proof of any results of said policy or programs
You took it a whole nother that. You done moved the goalpost, just like the Democratic Party. Here's what you want you to do. I define I'm gonna do that. No, move it over here. Democratic Party always moving the
I
goalpost.
don't think it's ridiculous to ask for policy results, to ask for results of the policy. I mean, because Donald Trump, you know what Donald Trump said was going to be in his platform when he ran the first time?
Lots of things.
He was going to pass a law for a Juneteenth holiday for Black people. You ain't know that, did you? You ain't know Donald Trump. You ain't know that was one of the promises Donald Trump made to Black folks when he first ran. What do you think Donald Trump thinks about Juneteenth now? What's he on the record saying about June? Well, first of all, he didn't do it when he was a president. But secondly, isn't he closing down public parks and all that because he don't want to acknowledge Juneteenth and taking away free days and all of that and talking trash about how Juneteenth ain't a real holiday and all of that. This is how fraudulent that dude is and how fraudulent the party is. They will dangle all of that stuff out there and tell you what they're going to do. And they ain't gonna never do it. They ain't gonna never do it. He said, like he said, and he got some of y'all with it. What you got to lose? What you got to lose?
Yeah.
What you got to lose? About 3,000 to 4,000 government jobs. That's what you got to lose.
Well, to this point, about $3,100 have been estimated that people have, if you want to put it, lost between the increased amount at the pump and also the tariff money that we all pay that we should never pay. So about $3,100.
I was talking about jobs. I was talking about jobs. I was talking about government jobs. Black jobs.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We got about 400,000 Black women got their jobs axed. Hey, new administration.
All them Black women that you say should be voting, all them Black women that you say is Democratic puppets and should be voting for Republicans, the ones who looking for jobs right now, because Donald Trump cut their government job.
I'm not going to be tearing up about it. Like I said, I get why people voted for Trump the first time, especially. I get it 100%. First time against Hillary, the things he was saying, I understand completely. The second time, it just makes me wonder, where were people the first time? But again, if that was your preference or you felt like he was better than Kamala, hey, it is what it is. Do you? I'm just glad you are here to talk with us about it, Terrence. I really appreciate you, man. Your son be coming for me all the time. Why your son keep coming for me?
He's a protective son. I don't know.
He don't got to protect you from me. We're on the same side, Christian. But I get it.
I think he told me before, he said, I understand what Nathan does as a moderator. He's got to stir the pot. He said,
yeah, for sure.
I think that's why he picked at you, because he sees you picking at us and knowing our buttons, when to push our buttons and how to turn us up and turn us down. So
just a little bit. I'm guilty of that. Just a little, just for the purposes of the show. So
stop.
Check out that Trump Platinum plan, man. Check out that Platinum plan.
What happened to that? Where is Ice Cube?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Check out the Platinum plan. Check out Trump's Platinum plan. Let's see how much of that he did. Let's check that out.
He's done zero of it, but hey, we got 2 years left. I'm a hope for the best. That's what
I'm trying to help Terrence with his homework. I'm pointing him to a direction where he can go right and get them campaign policy promises. I'm trying to point you. Just go get that Platinum plan and take a look at that, Terrence, because that's what he campaigned on. That's what he campaigned on, the Platinum plan.
Kevin sent you on Mission Impossible. For you to complete this mission, you're gonna need Tom Cruise in this whole Mission Impossible.
I'm trying to help Terrence recruit more Black men to the Republican Party. Go look at that. That is his golden goose. If you can pull out that Platinum plan and show these brothers what Donald Trump promised and what he delivered on, man, they're gonna leave the Democratic Party in droves and come join y'all. Telling you. Go check
With
that
that-
out. Check out that platinum play.
I'll let you have the last word, Kevin. Hey, Terrence, appreciate you. Phil must have got tied up. You said he was doing an interview. He would try to jump in. Hopefully, we'll catch up with him on Friday. Hopefully, he didn't have an injury while doing his martial arts training. Did you see what I dropped? You see what I dropped in the chat, and y'all see the Phil didn't like it or acknowledge it at all. The video of his instructor, Kevin. Did you see that, Terrence? Did y'all see that in the text message? I dropped it. I said this is Phil's trainer. Hold on, let me see real quick. I love messing with Phil.
Hey man, while you doing that, man, Christian Horton brought up the fact that Trump lost when he brought the platinum plan to the table in 2020. So he said, "Bump that. That black stuff don't work. Let me go ahead and get that off the platform. That's the reason I lost."
He said, "You're going and do your 3-on-3 or your 3-on-3 basketball and live your life." And hey, man,
Right.
I don't blame Ice Cube, because as soon as he did something to try to help the black community, the Democratic the powers that be attacked him. Attacked Ice Cube. Attacked Mr. Ice Cube. They attacked Ice Cube's credibility to be a black man in America whenever he tried to present something, not just to Donald Trump. He presented it to Joe Biden as well. And the Democrats said, we don't want nothing to do with it. Trump said, let's get back to it after the election. But yeah, I digress.
Cube's heart was in the right place. I believe that. I believe Cube's heart was in the right place, but you're dealing with a guy that is so polarizing, so toxic, and can't be trusted, that I think that was the main challenge that people had. Like, you knew Donald Trump was a crook and was bad news. And so I think, like, on the Democratic side, I think, like, there is no negotiating with terrorists. Kind of like, you ever heard that line? And I think that's how a lot of Democrats look, like, or even some black people even look at, like, even trying to talk to Donald Trump is like negotiating with terrorists. You just don't do that. I think Ice Cube, I think he genuinely was looking at it as he said, like, hey, I'm gonna take it to both sides and see who's going to be willing to entertain it and listen. And I don't think that there's a bad idea. I just don't put much credence in the fact that you're going to ever get serious consideration from the other side.
Ice Cube was a plant sent to divide the black community, and it worked.
You think so, Nate?
Absolutely.
You think he was a plant? No, you think?
Absolutely. Because if he was really serious, I remember when he jumped to that space, the biggest issue I had with him is he was coming out talking about, well, nobody else has a black agenda, but that's just not true. There's a lot of credible people out there, most notably organizations run by black women that had already been out here canvassing throughout the nation, doing poll testing. They already had political action communities. They already had black agendas. He just jumped over all of them. Like, hey, look at me. I thought it was wrong. And really serious.
He had a platform to do so.
But what's the issue? Is the issue about you got a platform, or is it about creating a real agenda that already has buy-in from black voters that you can really put out there? If he was really serious about that, rather than trying to be me, I, he would have worked with these sisters on what they had already built and just used his personality, his celebrity to make it even bigger if he really cared. So he was clearly
that would have been that. You're right, Nathan. So, but is that a product of him being a plant, or maybe being a little bit narcissistic, maybe being a little bit too hyped up on himself? Like, is that
weird? He thought he cared, and now once again, since he got denied or whatever and got canceled by the black culture, now he's like, I don't want nothing to do with politics. And there goes to your theory, Nathan, that the next big person, the next big idea, the next big Albert Einstein, if Ice Cube, being a foundational black American with the platform as large as he can't even get anything pushed, why should we make room for others so they can have a try at it themselves? That doesn't make any sense to me. That doesn't make any sense. Why should we allow other people come over here and keep trying when our biggest can't get it done themselves?
And then here's the other thing about Ice Cube is that it's hard to run a movement and you're running a business. That's hard to do. That's because he's trying to get big three, not trying, but he's trying to I'm sure that part of his goal is to expand the reach of the big three, probably want to sell it to private equity one day. It's hard to do that and also be the leader of some kind of black agenda. That's very, very difficult to do because one is going to collide with the other. And I think he ran into that as well. Like, you know what? This ain't good for business. Let me just stay out of politics altogether. So I get it. I wish he just stayed out of it. Like, if you're not going to stay in it, then stay out of it completely. But
there's no question. There's no question politics are bad for business unless you're the president and you're steering all the politics towards your business. But generally, generally, to your point, Nathan, you spot on. It's hard. It's hard if you're trying to make moves in the business world where you need to have all kinds of alliances across the political spectrum. Is difficult to immerse yourself in politics to that degree. So you're 100% right, is that he might not have been the person to lead that or to maintain it. But to Terrace's point, I think with his profile, he's certainly somebody who could have elevated it, you know, and I wonder if some of that is if he had gone to these other agencies within the Democratic Party, would they have even wanted that to be taken to Trump? Like that's the other thing I wonder, where if he was looking like, hey man, I might try to play through the system like what you said, but again, if they adopt that negotiating with terrorists line, then I'm still not getting what I want, which is bringing this platform to the other party. I don't know. It may be a little bit more complex than what we're saying, or it could be as simple as what you're saying. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever get the unequivocal answer to that, because Cube certainly has his perspective, I'm sure.
All right, guys, that's all I got. I appreciate everybody, and we'll be back on Friday.
All right.
Have a great Tuesday.